The past is a shadow that haunts the present, its secrets buried beneath layers of time and earth. But what if some of those secrets refuse to stay hidden? In the vastness of ancient ruins, there lie remnants of civilizations that defy our understanding. Monuments, artifacts, and structures whose origins remain a mystery. How were they built? Why were they left behind? Tonight, we venture deep into the heart of these unexplained wonders. From lost cities to cryptic symbols, we'll uncover 3 hours of bizarre archaeological enigmas that challenge everything we think we know. Are you ready to unlock the mysteries of the ancient world? Let's begin. Beneath the endless expanse of the Gobi Desert, where the wind sweeps across the sands like a forgotten whisper, there lies a mystery that has captivated explorers and historians for centuries. Known only by the cryptic moniker, the Dragon's Lair, this lost city is said to be buried deep beneath the harsh landscape, hidden away by the merciless desert winds. But does it truly exist? And if so, what remains of it? The Gobi Desert, vast, desolate, and inhospitable, covers much of modern-day Mongolia and China. Its barren beauty is deceptive. Beneath its surface, it hides an array of secrets, some of which may never be fully uncovered. Throughout history, ancient caravans passed through these lands, traveling along the Silk Road, bringing with them tales of strange cities, fabled treasures, and mysterious civilizations. One such story that has persisted for centuries is that of a grand city, lost to time, known only as the Dragon's Lair. This city, according to ancient texts, was said to be a place of great wealth and wisdom, home to an advanced civilization that vanished mysteriously in the centuries before the Common Era. The name itself, the Dragon's Lair, is both evocative and enigmatic. Was it named after the mythical creatures that haunted the imagination of the ancient people, or did it refer to something far more significant, perhaps a symbol of power, strength, or a lost dynasty? What makes this story particularly compelling is that it is not entirely based on folklore. There are fragments of historical evidence that suggest such a city might have existed. Ancient manuscripts, some believed to date back to the Han Dynasty, 206 BC to 220 AD, mention a city located at the edges of the Gobi Desert, a place rich in gold, precious stones, and advanced knowledge that was lost after a catastrophic event, perhaps an earthquake, a war, or even the slow encroachment of the desert itself. These references have intrigued archaeologists and historians, but so far, no definitive proof has been found. One of the most fascinating aspects of this mystery lies in the interpretation of what happened to the city. Some believe that it was swallowed by the desert over time, its grand structures buried under shifting dunes. Others propose that it was deliberately hidden, a place erased from history by those who once sought to control its riches. Still, some fringe theories suggest that the city was destroyed by some kind of supernatural force, as if the very fabric of reality itself was torn asunder. Yet, none of these explanations have been conclusively proven. The name Dragon's Lair also evokes another layer of intrigue. Dragons, often seen in the lore of ancient cultures, are sometimes considered symbols of ancient wisdom and power. Could the dragon represent something more than a mythological creature? Could it point to the existence of a hidden knowledge or technology far beyond what we've understood in our current historical narrative? In the early 20th century, some explorers reported finding strange, unexplained ruins within the Gobi, but these claims were largely dismissed by mainstream archaeologists. The terrain itself, so unforgiving and harsh, presents an almost insurmountable challenge for any expedition attempting to uncover such a city. The arid environment, combined with frequent sandstorms and the unforgiving sun, makes any search for the Dragon's Lair a difficult task. Yet, modern technology, such as satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar, has allowed for new avenues of exploration. The question arises, could we, with our advancements in technology, uncover what was once thought lost to time? But with each new exploration, more questions emerge. Some theorists have even suggested that the Dragon's Lair is not a city in the traditional sense, but rather an underground complex or labyrinth, a hidden refuge constructed by an ancient society seeking to escape the ravages of an unknown disaster. Could there have been a vast network of subterranean tunnels and chambers hidden from the world above? Or was the city built to be deliberately concealed, as if its very existence were meant to remain a secret? As we peer into the vast emptiness of the Gobi Desert, one can't help but wonder, if a city so great and so rich truly once stood here, what else might still be hidden beneath the sands? Is it possible that the Dragon's Lair, a place of unimaginable wealth and wisdom, will one day be discovered? Or is it destined to remain one of history's most enduring mysteries, forever buried beneath the desert's endless horizon? From the shifting sands of Egypt's ancient past, another mystery emerges, one that has captivated the imagination of archaeologists and explorers alike. Deep in the heart of the Theban necropolis, just west of the Nile River, lies the fabled lost Golden City. It was a place of opulence, grandeur, and power, a city whose wealth and splendor once rivaled the might of the pharaohs themselves. Yet, despite its historical significance, it had vanished from the annals of history, swallowed up by time and the shifting sands of the desert. It wasn't until 2020, when a team of Egyptian archaeologists led by Dr. Zahi Hawass made a discovery that would send shockwaves through the archaeological community. The long-lost city, buried for over 3 millennia, was finally uncovered. But with its unearthing came whispers of something darker, a curse. Known as the Golden City of the Pharaohs, this lost metropolis, dating back to the reign of Amenhotep III, circa 1390 to 1353 BC, was a thriving urban center, bustling with craftsmen, merchants, and artisans. It was a city of immense wealth, its streets lined with golden artifacts, pottery, and hieroglyphic inscriptions that tell of a civilization at the height of its power. But it wasn't only the treasures of the city that captured the world's attention. It was the eerie circumstances surrounding its disappearance. For centuries, historians and archaeologists believed that the city was destroyed or abandoned. Some speculated that it was consumed by the Nile's unpredictable flooding, while others suggested it had been deliberately buried by the ancient Egyptians, perhaps to conceal it from enemies or to hide the riches it held. Yet, there was no solid evidence, no record of how the city vanished. The story of its rediscovery is as dramatic as the city's own history. In 2020, a team of archaeologists working near the Valley of the Kings uncovered an unexpected find, an entire city, well preserved and relatively intact, as if it had been frozen in time. The remains of walls, streets, and homes appeared just beneath the surface, suggesting that this was no ordinary ruin. It was, without a doubt, the Golden City, a site that had eluded discovery for centuries. Among the most striking artifacts found at the site were golden rings, scarabs, and pottery inscribed with the names of Amenhotep III and his successor, Akhenaten. But as the team continued to excavate, something strange began to happen. Reports from the dig site hinted at an unexplained series of misfortunes, equipment failures, unexplained accidents, and even the sudden death of several workers. These eerie coincidences led many to speculate that the city was cursed. Was it truly a curse, or was it simply the result of the harsh conditions of the desert? Some believed that the ancient Egyptians had a practice of inscribing curses on certain tombs and cities, a way of protecting the sacred places from tomb robbers or unwelcome visitors. Yet, there's little evidence to suggest that a curse was placed upon the city itself, at least no definitive evidence. Still, the idea of a curse persisted, with some pointing to the city's sudden disappearance as a sign of divine retribution for some unknown transgression. What makes this mystery even more compelling is the lack of conclusive evidence about what happened to the city after its decline. While the ruins of the city remain a testament to its once great wealth and power, there is no historical record of its final days. Why would such an important city, rich in gold and treasures, simply disappear without a trace? Was the city abandoned out of fear, perhaps after an ancient disaster? Or was it buried deliberately to erase it from history? Some scholars argue that the city's decline may have been linked to the political and religious upheaval of the time. The reign of Akhenaten, the successor to Amenhotep III, marked a dramatic shift in Egyptian religion and culture. Akhenaten's monotheistic worship of the sun god Aten led to the dismantling of the traditional pantheon of Egyptian gods, creating division and unrest throughout the kingdom. It is possible, some argue, that the lost Golden City was a casualty of this religious revolution, abandoned or destroyed by the very people who once called it home. Yet, others have suggested a more dramatic theory, that the city was buried intentionally by its inhabitants, not due to political unrest, but because of an ancient secret, one too dangerous to reveal. Could the city have held knowledge, perhaps even a treasure, that was so powerful, so sacred, that it was hidden away to protect it from the world? Was the curse not a warning, but a way of ensuring that this knowledge would remain forever lost? The idea of the city's curse has become more than just a story. It has become part of the city's legacy. The very notion that something so ancient and so powerful could still exert its influence over the modern world raises questions that remain unanswered. Some of the workers who unearthed the city described strange dreams and inexplicable feelings of dread, as though the city was watching them, guarding its secrets. Even as the world celebrates the discovery of this lost city, the questions persist. What remains beneath the sands, hidden from our view, waiting to be uncovered? Is the city truly cursed? Or is there something deeper, something more profound, that we have yet to understand about its disappearance? Perhaps the most compelling mystery is not just the city's riches or its sudden vanishing, but the idea that the Golden City, with all its splendor and secrets, may still be guarding something beyond our comprehension. As we continue to explore the hidden corners of ancient Egypt, one cannot help but wonder, what other cities, buried in silence, might hold answers to mysteries long forgotten? And more importantly, what else might be waiting to be uncovered in the shadows of the past? The lost Golden City of Egypt, its treasures and its curse, remains a riddle, with answers yet to be discovered, and perhaps some mysteries that should remain unsolved. Nestled among the rolling hills of modern-day Syria lies the ancient city of Qatna, once a thriving center of power, culture, and intrigue in the Bronze Age. But beneath the arid landscape, within the ruins of this forgotten city, something extraordinary rests, a royal tomb whose discovery in the late 20th century has sparked as much fascination as it has questions. The Qatna royal tomb, untouched for thousands of years, holds within it a story that has yet to be fully understood, a mystery wrapped in the secrets of the past. Qatna, known in antiquity as a major city of the Amorites, flourished during the 2nd millennium BC. Its strategic position, situated on the trade routes between the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia, the Levant, and Anatolia, made it a powerful and prosperous kingdom. The tomb that lies within this ancient city, uncovered in the early 2000s, is not just an ordinary burial site. It is a testament to the grandeur and opulence of the people who built it, as well as the enigmatic circumstances surrounding its creation and eventual abandonment. The tomb itself is a marvel of ancient architecture, designed with a complexity that hints at a sophisticated understanding of both burial practices and the afterlife. It was discovered relatively intact, its walls adorned with intricate carvings and inscriptions in languages that have yet to be fully deciphered. These symbols, mysterious and elegant, offer tantalizing glimpses into a culture long lost to history. What do they mean? And what secrets could they reveal about the beliefs, values, and customs of the people who constructed this remarkable tomb? The discovery of the Qatna royal tomb in the late 1990s raised more questions than it answered. The tomb appeared to have been looted in antiquity, with many of its treasures, gold, jewelry, and precious artifacts, removed long before modern archaeologists arrived. Yet, despite the pillaging, the tomb still contained objects that spoke volumes about the society that built it. Finely crafted pottery, weapons, and fragments of elaborate clothing, all carefully arranged around the royal burial chamber. What was the significance of these items? Were they meant to accompany the deceased into the afterlife, or were they offerings to ensure a safe passage to the world beyond? One of the most intriguing aspects of the tomb is its apparent connection to the royal family of Qatna. It is widely believed that the tomb belonged to one of the city's rulers, possibly a king, though the identity of the deceased remains unknown. Was this an unusual form of burial, meant to reflect the power and prestige of the ruler? Or was it something else? A message to future generations, a monument to the divine right of kingship, or perhaps a tool in an ancient ritual that has since been forgotten? As researchers began to dig deeper into the tomb's contents, they unearthed more than just physical artifacts. They uncovered a series of strange and unexplained elements that raised even more questions. The tomb's layout itself was unconventional for its time, deviating from the typical burial practices of the region. In an era where tombs were usually simple affairs, often with a single burial chamber and a few offerings, the Qatna royal tomb stood as a stark exception. Why the need for such complexity? Was it a symbol of the ruler's eternal power, designed to intimidate any would-be trespassers or looters? Or did it reflect some deeper religious or spiritual significance, perhaps linked to the ancient gods or the underworld? Adding to the mystery is the presence of items from distant lands, objects that appear to have been traded or gifted to the rulers of Qatna. Foreign materials, such as lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, ivory from Africa, and exquisite pottery from Anatolia, were found among the treasures buried with the king. These artifacts raise an intriguing question. How connected was Qatna to the rest of the ancient world? Was this a city that played a crucial role in the geopolitical and cultural exchanges of its time, or was it a kingdom that, for reasons unknown, chose to isolate itself from its neighbors, relying instead on its own resources and mysticism? The tomb also features what some have described as an unusual burial practice. Instead of a single body, a number of human remains were found within the tomb, including the bones of children and other individuals who appear to have been sacrificed. Were these people part of a ritualistic ceremony, intended to accompany the king in his journey to the afterlife? Or did they play a more symbolic role, representing the subjects, slaves, or enemies of the king, bound to serve him even in death? Some scholars suggest that these burials reflect the ancient belief in an afterlife that was heavily influenced by sacrifice and ritual, an idea that was widespread in the ancient Near East, but one that still eludes full understanding. One of the more speculative theories surrounding the Qatna royal tomb is the possibility of hidden chambers or secret passageways, designed to conceal even greater treasures or knowledge. Archaeologists have found evidence of such hidden features in other ancient tombs, and some have speculated that the tomb of Qatna may hold more than just the remains of its royal occupant. Could there be a hidden vault, still undiscovered, that contains lost artifacts or inscriptions that could shed light on the kingdom's true nature? Despite the wealth of artifacts and the mysteries surrounding the tomb's design, the most pressing question remains: why was this tomb abandoned, and why did the city of Qatna eventually fall into ruin? Some believe that the city's decline was the result of shifting political dynamics in the ancient Near East. Wars, invasions, or internal strife may have led to its demise. Others, however, have proposed more speculative theories. Could the fall of Qatna have been linked to some supernatural event, some divine retribution that was foretold in the very carvings on the tomb's walls? Or was the city's downfall merely a consequence of the changing tides of history? As we continue to investigate the mysteries of the Qatna royal tomb, one thing is certain: there is much more to uncover beneath the surface of this ancient site. What is hidden in the intricate carvings and mysterious inscriptions that have yet to be deciphered? What deeper secrets might still lie buried in the tomb's shadow, waiting for the right moment to be revealed? The story of Qatna, its royal tomb, and the people who once inhabited it is far from over. The question remains: how much of the city's forgotten past will we truly ever understand? High on a hilltop in the Alentejo region of southern Portugal, nestled between rolling plains and jagged cliffs, stands a site that speaks of an ancient world long forgotten. The Zambujal fortified complex, with its labyrinthine walls, towering ramparts, and enigmatic structures, has puzzled archaeologists and historians since it was first discovered in the mid-20th century. For centuries, the site remained hidden beneath layers of soil and vegetation, its secrets preserved by time itself. But when the layers were finally peeled back, what emerged was a monument to an ancient people whose purpose and identity remain largely unknown. The Zambujal complex, believed to date back to around 2500 BC, stands as a testament to an early Bronze Age civilization in the Iberian Peninsula. It was not just a settlement, it was a fortress. Its walls, built of massive stone blocks, still rise high above the surrounding landscape, enclosing an area that seems to have served both as a stronghold and a symbol of power. Within its confines, archaeologists have uncovered traces of a once thriving community: pottery, tools, weapons, and signs of early metallurgy, all indicating that this was a people deeply engaged in both warfare and craftsmanship. Yet, despite these findings, the true purpose of Zambujal remains a mystery. The most striking feature of the Zambujal complex is its fortifications. The walls, composed of large stone blocks carefully stacked together, are a marvel of ancient engineering. Unlike other settlements of the time, Zambujal was clearly built with defense in mind. Its location, perched atop a hill with sweeping views of the surrounding plains, would have made it a strategic point in the region. The complexity of the walls and the intricacy of the entranceways suggest that the builders were not only concerned with protecting themselves from external threats, but were also skilled in fortification techniques that were ahead of their time. Despite these impressive defenses, there are elements of the Zambujal complex that remain puzzling. The site is not a single, simple fortress, but rather a complex of interconnected enclosures, each with its own peculiarities. Some areas are open courtyards, while others contain structures that appear to have been used for ritualistic or ceremonial purposes. These spaces, unlike typical fortifications, suggest that the inhabitants of Zambujal were not merely warriors, but also deeply engaged in religious or cultural practices that have left no clear record. What role did these rituals play in the lives of the people who lived here? Were they part of a larger regional belief system, or did they have a more personal significance? In the center of the complex, archaeologists uncovered a large, circular structure whose purpose remains unclear. Some have suggested that it was a gathering space for religious ceremonies, while others believe it may have been a meeting hall for leaders or a place of communal activity. The circular nature of the structure is unusual for its time, as most settlements in the region were designed with more angular, defensive layouts. Could this circular form be a clue to the symbolic or spiritual beliefs of the people who constructed it? Could it have been a representation of unity, or perhaps the cyclical nature of life and death? As researchers continue to study the site, another question looms large. Who were the people who built Zambujal? The culture that inhabited the complex is not yet fully understood. While pottery found at the site links it to other groups from the Iberian Peninsula, there are no clear connections to the larger, more documented civilizations of the time, such as the Minoans or the Egyptians. This has led to a variety of theories about the origin of Zambujal's builders. Some suggest that the people of Zambujal were part of a larger network of cultures across the Mediterranean, possibly connected to ancient trade routes that spanned from the Iberian coast to the Middle East. Others speculate that they were a more isolated community, with their own unique customs and traditions that have since been lost to history. One of the most puzzling aspects of the Zambujal complex is the apparent lack of evidence for a large population. While the site is clearly designed to house a significant number of people, there is little evidence to suggest that it was a permanent settlement in the traditional sense. Few residential structures have been found, and the area seems to have been largely abandoned by the time the Iron Age began. Did the inhabitants of Zambujal migrate elsewhere, leaving behind their fortress and its secrets? Or did the complex serve a different purpose, one that is not yet understood? Was it a temporary stronghold, a place of refuge during times of conflict, or perhaps a ceremonial center used for a specific period before being abandoned? Adding to the complexity of the site is the discovery of a series of mysterious carvings on some of the stones that form the walls of the fortress. These symbols, some geometric, others more abstract, are not easily recognizable as part of any known language or script from the period. The carvings may represent a form of communication, a language that has since vanished, or they could be purely symbolic, serving as markers of ownership or as ritualistic symbols meant to protect the site from harm. The purpose of these markings remains one of the most enigmatic aspects of the site. Could they have been part of a larger system of symbols used by the people of Zambujal to communicate with other groups? Or were they connected to religious beliefs and practices? And if they were a form of writing, could they hold the key to understanding the culture and history of the Zambujal people? Theories about the fate of the Zambujal complex are varied, but one common thread runs through them all, a sense of suddenness and finality. The complex, despite its formidable defenses and apparent significance, was abandoned with little explanation. What could have caused such a sudden departure? Was it the result of external forces, perhaps an invasion by a rival tribe or kingdom? Or did internal strife lead to its downfall? The fact that the site was abandoned without leaving behind a clear record of its decline only deepens the mystery. There are those who speculate that the abandonment of Zambujal might have been tied to a natural disaster, a flood, an earthquake, or perhaps a prolonged drought that rendered the area inhospitable. Others suggest that the site's inhabitants may have been forced to move on due to the encroachment of larger, more powerful civilizations in the region, leaving Zambujal to be swallowed by the elements and time. Yet, the questions remain. What was the true purpose of Zambujal? Was it a fortress, a religious center, or a combination of both? Why was it so elaborately constructed, only to be abandoned without explanation? And who were the people who built it? And where did they go? As we continue to uncover the layers of history buried beneath the stones of Zambujal, the mystery of this ancient complex only deepens. The more we discover, the more questions arise. Questions that may never have clear answers, but that continue to beckon us toward the past, urging us to seek out the lost stories of those who once walked these lands. The Zambujal fortified complex remains one of the great enigmas of ancient archaeology, a reminder that even in the face of incredible discovery, there is always more to uncover, more to learn, and more to question. Carved into the heart of a solitary mountain, hidden deep within the rugged landscapes of Ellora, India, stands one of the most enigmatic and awe-inspiring structures ever conceived by human hands. The Temple of Kailasa, part of the Ellora Caves, is a monumental feat of architecture that defies all conventional understanding of ancient engineering. Unlike any other temple in the world, it is a single, massive structure, carved entirely out of rock, forming a breathtaking three-dimensional temple complex, complete with intricately detailed sculptures, towering pillars, and sanctuaries. But what makes the Temple of Kailasa even more extraordinary is not just its sheer size or beauty. It is the mystery that surrounds how it was built. The Kailasa Temple, dedicated to the Hindu god Shiva, is believed to have been constructed during the 8th century, under the rule of the Rashtrakuta king, Krishna I. But despite its dated origins, the method of its construction remains an unsolved riddle. Unlike traditional temples, which were built stone by stone, the Kailasa temple was carved downward, from the top of a hill. The builders, without modern technology or machinery, painstakingly removed thousands of tons of rock to create a temple so vast that it almost appears to have been sculpted from the very mountain itself. It's a feat that begs the question, how did they do it? The most widely accepted theory suggests that the Kailasa temple was carved by skilled artisans using primitive tools and basic techniques. However, the scale and precision of the construction, particularly the removal of such an immense amount of rock from a single block, raises doubts about this explanation. To carve the temple, the workers would have had to descend into the rock face, hollowing out massive sections of the mountain. The sheer logistics of such an endeavor, especially with the tools available in the 8th century, seems almost impossible. How could they have maintained the necessary level of precision and coordination to achieve such perfection? How long would it have taken to carve such an intricate and massive structure without modern tools? The intricacies of the Kailasa temple's architecture are as mystifying as its construction. The temple is not only a single structure but also a complex of courtyards, halls, and sanctuaries, all arranged in perfect symmetry. Each element of the design, from the massive pillars to the delicate carvings of deities and mythological figures, is intricately detailed and seems to adhere to a precise set of proportions. The artistry of the temple is unparalleled. There are sculptures that depict scenes from the Hindu epics, intricate representations of gods, and even life-size carvings of animals. Each sculpture is so finely detailed that it's difficult to imagine how it could have been carved out of solid rock with the tools of the time. What inspired such devotion and such craftsmanship? Was there some hidden purpose behind every design, every symbol, that we have yet to decipher? Adding to the intrigue is the temple's size. The Kailasa temple measures over 100 feet, 30 meters high, with a series of colossal pillars and a massive central courtyard that dwarfs the surrounding landscape. But despite its monumental size, the temple's creators managed to retain an air of harmony and balance in the structure, as though it was built not merely for function, but for some greater spiritual or symbolic purpose. Why was such an immense effort put into the construction of a single temple? Was it simply a place of worship? Or could there have been another, more profound reason behind its creation, perhaps tied to the religious and political aspirations of the rulers who commissioned it? One of the most perplexing features of the Kailasa temple is its location. While the Ellora caves themselves are a well-known site for cave temples and monasteries, the Kailasa temple stands apart due to its size and design. The temple complex is isolated, perched on a high plateau and carved into the mountain itself, overlooking the valley below. Its very location suggests that it was intended to be a monumental statement, a temple not just for the gods, but for those who would come to witness its grandeur. Why was it placed so high in the hills? Was it meant to symbolize the divine connection between heaven and earth? Or was there a more practical reason for its placement? Some have speculated that the temple's location was chosen because it was believed to be an especially sacred site, imbued with spiritual significance. But others suggest that the location could have had military or strategic importance, though the notion remains speculative. The symbolism of the Kailasa temple is another facet that invites deeper exploration. The temple is dedicated to Shiva, one of the most powerful deities in Hinduism, and the architecture itself is thought to represent Mount Meru, the mythical center of the universe in Hindu cosmology. The temple's verticality and the way it seems to emerge from the rock are suggestive of a divine connection between the physical and the spiritual realms. But some question whether the temple's design holds deeper meanings. Could it be a depiction of cosmic forces, a microcosm of the universe itself? The intricate carvings that adorn the walls of the temple include mythological scenes of gods and demons, suggesting a symbolic narrative that may reflect ancient cosmological beliefs. Could these depictions reveal something about the spiritual worldview of the temple's builders, or do they hold secrets hidden in their symbolism, waiting to be uncovered? There is also the mystery of the tools that may have been used to create the temple. While historians generally believe that the temple was built with the tools available at the time, perhaps simple chisels and hammers, there are certain features of the Kailasa temple that challenge this explanation. For instance, the precision with which the temple's walls were carved, as well as the smoothness of the surfaces, suggests the use of advanced techniques. Some have even suggested that the builders may have used tools or methods that have since been lost to history. Could there have been some ancient technology or knowledge that has been forgotten over time, enabling the builders of Kailasa to achieve what seems impossible? Could this temple be a remnant of a lost civilization, one with knowledge that was far ahead of its time? But perhaps the greatest mystery of all is why the Kailasa temple was built in the first place. What drove the rulers and artisans to invest so much effort and so many resources into creating this monumental structure? Was it merely a devotional act, a way to honor the gods? Or was there some deeper, more esoteric purpose that we have yet to understand? Some have suggested that the temple could have been an initiation site, a place where spiritual seekers came to undergo rituals and rites of passage. Others believe it could have been a center of learning, or a political symbol designed to assert the power of the kingdom. Despite its grandeur and the incredible effort put into its creation, the Temple of Kailasa has never been fully explained. It stands as a monument to an ancient civilization whose knowledge and skills seem to defy the capabilities of its time. And as we stand before it, gazing up at its towering walls and intricate carvings, we are left with a question that lingers in the air. What did the builders of Kailasa truly know, and what mysteries might still be hidden within its depths? The Temple of Kailasa remains a breathtaking enigma, and as we explore its secrets, we are reminded that some mysteries of the ancient world may never fully be understood. At the edge of the Iberian Peninsula, where the Guadalquivir River meets the Mediterranean Sea, lies a mystery that has captivated historians and archaeologists for centuries. The civilization of Tartessos, an ancient and enigmatic kingdom that flourished during the early 1st millennium BC, has left behind only the faintest traces of its existence. Yet these traces hint at a culture far more sophisticated than we could have imagined. Once celebrated for its wealth, its vibrant trade networks, and its mythic connections to the ancient world, Tartessos has remained largely hidden from history, its true nature shrouded in layers of legend, ambiguity, and speculation. The first whispers of Tartessos appeared in the writings of the ancient Greeks, who spoke of a powerful and wealthy kingdom located in the farthest reaches of the Western world. The Greeks referred to it as the land of the Pillars of Hercules, a reference to the Straits of Gibraltar, where the Mediterranean meets the Atlantic Ocean. This kingdom, according to Greek sources, was rich in gold, silver, and precious metals, resources that attracted the attention of Phoenician traders, and later, the Greeks themselves. The city of Tartessos, described as a port of immense wealth, became a symbol of opulence and mystery in the ancient Mediterranean world. However, despite these tantalizing accounts, no definitive archaeological evidence has ever confirmed the precise location of the Tartessian capital, nor has there been any agreement on the extent of its influence or its exact place in history. What we do know is that, by around 500 BC, Tartessos seemed to disappear from the historical record, leaving only scattered artifacts, ancient writings, and the echoes of a once great civilization. But how much of this disappearance was the result of natural disaster, foreign invasion, or simply the ravages of time? And what is the true legacy of this enigmatic civilization? In recent decades, archaeologists working along the southern coast of Spain have uncovered a series of key sites that may provide clues to Tartessos' history. Among the most significant is the archaeological complex at the site of the ancient city of Tartessos, near the mouth of the Guadalquivir River. Here, ruins of an ancient settlement have been uncovered, featuring elaborate structures and evidence of long-standing trade. These remains suggest that Tartessos was not just a small kingdom, but a powerful and well-connected civilization. The findings include pottery, jewelry, and weapons, many of which exhibit an advanced level of craftsmanship. But more intriguing still are the signs of a complex society, evidence of metallurgy, trade networks, and urban planning. The wealth of Tartessos was, according to Greek sources, attributed to its gold and silver mines, which were likely located in the nearby mountains. The civilization's control over these resources is thought to have fueled its prosperity. But it is the artwork and religious symbols found at the Tartessos sites that have most intrigued archaeologists. These artifacts often depict deities, animals, and abstract symbols that suggest a highly developed religious and spiritual culture, one that may have shared similarities with other ancient Mediterranean religions. Some of the art, particularly in the form of sculpted images, hints at a hybridization of cultures, blending Phoenician, Greek, and indigenous Iberian elements. What did these religious symbols mean to the people of Tartessos? Were they simply representations of gods and spirits, or did they encode a deeper, more mysterious system of beliefs, perhaps a hidden language that we have yet to fully decipher? Despite these fascinating discoveries, the true nature of the Tartessian civilization remains elusive. One of the most perplexing aspects of Tartessos is its supposed disappearance. After it reached its peak, the kingdom seems to have collapsed almost overnight, vanishing from the annals of history. Some scholars argue that the kingdom's decline was the result of foreign invasions, with the Phoenicians, and later the Carthaginians, encroaching on Tartessos' territory. Others speculate that the decline may have been a result of environmental factors, a series of natural disasters, such as earthquakes or floods, that devastated the region. But the absence of clear historical records leaves us wondering, was the fall of Tartessos simply a product of external forces, or was there something more enigmatic at play? Could the Tartessian civilization have collapsed due to internal unrest, or even some kind of ritual or symbolic destruction that erased its existence from the map? Adding another layer of intrigue is the connection between Tartessos and the mythic story of Atlantis, the legendary island civilization first described by the Greek philosopher Plato. According to some interpretations, the tale of Atlantis, with its vast wealth and eventual destruction by natural disaster, bears striking similarities to the stories told about Tartessos. In fact, many scholars have pointed out that the ancient Greeks may have based their idea of Atlantis on real events from the history of Tartessos, or similar civilizations in the Mediterranean world. Could the legend of Atlantis be rooted in the memory of a kingdom that once flourished on the edge of the known world, only to vanish into the sea? And if Tartessos was, in fact, the inspiration for Plato's tale, what does that say about the power of myths to preserve the memory of lost civilizations? Despite the numerous theories surrounding Tartessos, the absence of definitive archaeological evidence, such as a fully identified capital city or comprehensive historical records, has left many questions unanswered. Some have speculated that Tartessos might have been a confederation of smaller tribes or city-states, rather than a unified kingdom. This could explain the difficulty in pinpointing its exact location and the gaps in the historical record. If the kingdom was indeed decentralized, then what we now understand as Tartessos may have been a loose network of cities united by trade, religion, and culture, but not necessarily bound by a single ruler or capital. Perhaps the most significant unanswered question is the precise location of the capital city of Tartessos. Though ancient Greek writers like Herodotus and Strabo mention the kingdom's wealth and its connection to the Phoenicians, no one has ever definitively identified the city itself. Various sites in southern Spain have been suggested as the possible location of Tartessos, including the well-known archaeological site of El Carambolo, where a remarkable treasure of gold jewelry was discovered in the 1950s. This treasure, with its striking blend of Iberian and Phoenician styles, suggests a culture that was heavily influenced by external trade and contact. But despite the wealth of artifacts, the exact location of Tartessos's capital city remains one of the great mysteries of ancient archaeology. As we continue to explore the fragments of Tartessos's past, we are left with more questions than answers. What was the full extent of its wealth and influence? How did its people live, and what were their beliefs? Was the disappearance of Tartessos a result of external forces, environmental disasters, or something more elusive? Could the legend of Atlantis truly have originated here, in the land of gold and riches, where myth and reality blur? The kingdom of Tartessos, with its vast riches and mysterious end, continues to haunt the imagination of historians and archaeologists. Though much has been uncovered, it is clear that much remains hidden, buried in the sands of time. And perhaps, just like the legends of Atlantis, some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved, forever enticing, forever mysterious. High in the mountains of southern Peru, hidden amidst dense cloud forests and rugged terrain, lies a site that has baffled archaeologists and explorers for centuries, the Vilcabamba Stone Complex. Deep in the heart of the Vilcabamba Valley, this ancient site is believed to be one of the last strongholds of the Inca Empire, yet its exact nature and purpose remain elusive. The complex consists of a series of enormous stone structures and terraces, nestled among steep cliffs, which seem to have been built with a precision and scale that rival even the most famous Inca sites, like Machu Picchu. But unlike other Inca sites, which are well documented in historical records, the Vilcabamba Stone Complex has remained largely shrouded in mystery. The site was first discovered in the 19th century, but its remote location, coupled with the rugged geography of the region, made it difficult to study. It was only in the late 20th century that more serious excavation efforts began, revealing what appeared to be a highly sophisticated architectural complex. But despite these efforts, the true identity of the site and its function remains unclear. Was it a ceremonial center, a military outpost, or perhaps a lost city that played a crucial role in the final days of the Inca Empire? The Vilcabamba Stone Complex is unique for several reasons. First and foremost, its location is striking. Situated in the Vilcabamba Valley, a region often referred to as the last Inca refuge, it is surrounded by some of the most inhospitable terrain in all of Peru. Steep cliffs, deep ravines, and dense forests make the site incredibly difficult to access, which may explain why it remained hidden for so long. Its isolation also hints at the possibility that it was deliberately concealed, perhaps to protect it from the encroaching forces of the Spanish conquistadors, who by the 16th century were relentlessly hunting down the last remnants of the Inca Empire. What makes the Vilcabamba Stone Complex even more intriguing is the sheer scale and complexity of the structures found within it. Large terraces, intricate stone walls, and what appear to be ritualistic spaces dot the landscape. The stones used in the construction are massive, and many of them are cut with an extraordinary level of precision. Some of the stonework at Vilcabamba rivals the quality of that seen in other famous Inca sites, such as Ollantaytambo and Sacsayhuaman, where the stones fit together with such precision that it's almost impossible to insert a blade between them. This level of craftsmanship raises a critical question. What were the true capabilities of the builders of Vilcabamba? Could this have been a place where the Inca perfected their stoneworking techniques? Or was it something more, an architectural marvel built under extraordinary circumstances? Despite the impressive stonework, there is little to no direct evidence of the site's function. Unlike other Inca sites, where the purpose is relatively clear, whether as a religious center, a royal residence, or a military stronghold, Vilcabamba's role remains speculative. One possibility is that it served as a sanctuary, a place where the last remnants of the Inca royal family sought refuge in the wake of the Spanish conquest. After the fall of the Inca Empire in 1533, the remnants of the Inca nobility are believed to have retreated to the Vilcabamba Valley, where they established the last independent Inca stronghold. This would explain the site's strategic location, as it is well concealed and difficult to access, making it an ideal refuge from the Spanish invaders. However, there are other, more mysterious theories. Some suggest that the site was a ceremonial center, a place where rituals and sacred ceremonies were performed. The terraces and stone structures could have been designed to serve as platforms for these activities, with the surrounding geography amplifying the power and significance of the rituals. Yet, if it were purely a religious site, why would the Inca go to such great lengths to conceal it from the outside world? Why would they construct such elaborate defenses and hidden features in what appears to be a place of worship? Another theory posits that the site might have been a military base, perhaps one designed to protect the last remnants of the Inca from the Spanish. The strategic location, high in the mountains and surrounded by difficult terrain, would have provided the perfect location for a defensive stronghold. But while military installations are often designed to be functional, the intricate design of Vilcabamba's stone structures suggests that there was something more to this place than mere defense. Was it possible that the Inca, even in their final days, were trying to preserve a piece of their culture and identity? Could the Vilcabamba stone complex have been more than just a place to hide? It may have been a last-ditch attempt to reclaim the legacy of the Inca Empire. Perhaps the most compelling mystery of all is the nature of the stonework itself. Inca masonry is famous for its precision. The stones are cut to such an exacting degree that they lock together without mortar, creating walls that have withstood centuries of earthquakes, floods, and invasions. However, there is something about the stonework at Vilcabamba that sets it apart from other Inca sites. Some of the stones seem to have been cut and shaped in ways that are far beyond what would have been necessary for practical construction. In some cases, the stones appear to have been deliberately placed in patterns that suggest symbolic or ritualistic significance. Could the layout of the site have been designed with a hidden meaning in mind? Were the stones themselves intended to carry a message, or perhaps to channel some form of spiritual energy? The precision with which the stones fit together is so exact that it is almost as though they were meant to serve a purpose beyond that of simple construction. The possibility that the Inca were using advanced knowledge of geometry, astronomy, or some form of ancient science to construct these structures raises intriguing questions about the extent of their knowledge and capabilities. Were they using principles that have since been forgotten or lost to history? In addition to the stonework, there are other oddities at the site. Some researchers have pointed to what appear to be carved figures, faces, or symbols etched into the stones, but their meaning remains unclear. These markings do not resemble typical Inca iconography, and their purpose has yet to be deciphered. Could they be part of a lost language, or a secret code meant to be understood only by the chosen few? The mysteries of the Vilcabamba stone complex also extend beyond its physical features. The lack of a clear historical record adds to the intrigue. While other Inca sites, like Machu Picchu, have been well documented by both the Spanish and modern archaeologists, Vilcabamba remains largely outside the historical narrative. This absence of written records is perhaps the greatest enigma of all. Why didn't the Inca leave behind any substantial records of their final refuge? Was it a deliberate act of erasure, or did the conquerors ensure that no evidence would remain of the final days of the Inca Empire? As we continue to uncover new layers of the Vilcabamba stone complex, the questions only multiply. What was the true purpose of this lost Inca site? Was it a royal sanctuary, a military outpost, or a ceremonial center? What does the extraordinary stonework tell us about the knowledge and capabilities of the Inca? And perhaps most tantalizing of all, what hidden secrets might still lie buried in the mist-covered mountains of Vilcabamba, waiting to be uncovered? As researchers continue to probe the mystery of this ancient site, we are reminded of how much remains hidden in the shadows of history. The Vilcabamba stone complex is a testament to a civilization that, even in its final days, may have been on the verge of secrets that we have yet to understand. And as we search for answers, we are left with the question, how much of the past remains to be discovered, and how many mysteries are still waiting to be revealed? Hidden away on a narrow ridge overlooking the lush valleys and rocky hills of the Palestine region lies one of the most fascinating archaeological sites in the ancient world, Khirbet Qeiyafa. The site, situated on the western edge of the Elah Valley, is often associated with the biblical kingdom of Judah, yet it holds a host of mysteries that continue to elude scholars, raising more questions than answers. The discovery of Khirbet Qeiyafa has sparked intense debate over the history of the region, the nature of the biblical narrative, and the origins of the ancient kingdoms that once thrived in this land. The first excavations at Khirbet Qeiyafa, which began in the early 2000s, revealed the remains of a well-planned, fortified city. The walls, constructed with massive stones and fortified with towers, show evidence of a highly organized society with a strong military presence. What stands out most, however, is the site's age, dating back to around the 10th century BC, during a time when the biblical story of King David is thought to have taken place. The site's exact nature and function, however, remain subjects of heated debate. Khirbet Qeiyafa's location is strategic, perched high above the surrounding terrain, offering a commanding view of the valley below. This positioning suggests that it may have had both a defensive function and a symbolic significance. Its large, well-built walls indicate the presence of a powerful, centralized authority, able to command the labor and resources required to construct such an impressive structure. But the question arises, who were the builders of this fortified city, and why did they invest so much in its construction? Was this the work of the Kingdom of Judah, as some scholars suggest, or could it have been a rival city-state seeking to assert control over the region? The most intriguing aspect of Khirbet Qeiyafa is the evidence of its sudden abandonment. While the city appears to have been built with great care and purpose, it seems to have been deserted in a relatively short period of time. The walls are still intact, and the layout of the city remains clear, but the absence of any significant destruction or evidence of a violent end raises questions. Why would a thriving city, with impressive fortifications, be abandoned so quickly? Was it a result of external invasion? Or did something more mysterious, perhaps an internal collapse or a shift in political power, cause its inhabitants to leave? Without written records to shed light on the city's fate, the reasons for its abandonment remain one of the enduring mysteries of the site. As with many ancient sites, Khirbet Qeiyafa has become a focal point for debates surrounding the biblical narrative. Some scholars argue that the city was a key player in the Kingdom of Judah, supporting the notion that the biblical Kingdom of David was a historical reality. The timing of the city's construction, roughly in line with the biblical accounts of David's reign, suggests a connection. Some have even posited that Khirbet Qeiyafa may be the very city of Sha'araim, mentioned in the Bible as a place where David fought against the Philistines. But is this purely speculative, or could there be a kernel of truth hidden in the biblical texts? The discovery of an ancient inscription at the site, one of the earliest examples of Hebrew writing, has only added fuel to this debate. The inscription, which appears to be a short text in an early form of Hebrew, has been the subject of intense scrutiny. Some experts argue that it provides clear evidence of the scriptural connection to the Kingdom of Judah, while others suggest that it is merely a local development, unrelated to the biblical narratives. The inscription itself, though fragmentary, offers tantalizing clues about the people who lived at Qeiyafa, but its meaning and significance are still unclear. Was it an administrative record, a religious text, or perhaps something else entirely, a message that has been lost to time? One of the most striking features of Qeiyafa is the apparent lack of any pig bones found at the site. This absence is unusual, particularly when compared to other sites from the same period in the region, where evidence of pig consumption is relatively common. In the context of biblical narratives, this has sparked speculation that the site was indeed a settlement of the Kingdom of Judah, where the consumption of pork would have been prohibited due to religious laws. However, some researchers argue that the absence of pig bones could be coincidental or the result of other practical factors. Could it be that the people of Qeiyafa adhered to dietary laws, or is there another explanation altogether? Without further evidence, the significance of this detail remains open to interpretation. The layout of the city, too, offers its own set of puzzles. The city is divided into clear residential, industrial, and administrative zones, with each area organized and carefully planned. The fortifications and gates appear to be part of a well-thought-out system designed to control access and defend against potential threats. However, unlike other ancient cities, Qeiyafa does not exhibit any of the signs of monumental palaces or grand religious structures that one might expect in a city of such strategic importance. There is no large temple, no royal residence, and no obvious evidence of an elite class. This raises further questions about the social structure of the city. Was it truly a capital city, or did it serve a different function, perhaps as a military outpost or an administrative center? Some have even suggested that Qeiyafa could represent the early stages of urbanization in the region, perhaps a prototype for larger cities that would emerge later in the history of the ancient kingdoms. This theory posits that the site reflects the early development of a complex society, one that was beginning to shift away from a more tribal or nomadic lifestyle to one characterized by urban planning, centralized authority, and defensive fortifications. If this is the case, then Qeiyafa may represent a key moment in the history of ancient Palestine, a moment that predates the full emergence of the Kingdom of Judah, but offers vital clues about its origins. Another layer of intrigue lies in the questions surrounding the identity of the city's inhabitants. Were they the Israelites of the biblical narrative, or was the city part of a different culture or group? Some have suggested that the inhabitants may have been a mix of different peoples, reflecting the diverse and often complex political landscape of the region during this period. Could Qeiyafa have been a border city, situated at the crossroads of different cultures, with inhabitants from a variety of backgrounds? This could explain the site's unusual combination of features: fortifications, religious symbols, and a lack of grandiose buildings, reflecting a complex and diverse society that left behind only fragments of its identity. The ultimate mystery of Qeiyafa, however, may lie in its very purpose and sudden abandonment. Was it a military stronghold, a religious center, or a thriving urban settlement? The evidence points in multiple directions, yet no definitive answer has emerged. Its rapid abandonment without signs of destruction is especially perplexing. Did the inhabitants leave willingly, or was there a sudden collapse of power that caused them to flee? The inscription, the absence of pig bones, the strategic location, and the careful planning of the city all suggest a society that was organized and purposeful, but one that remains shrouded in mystery. Qeiyafa might hold the key to understanding the early days of the Kingdom of Judah, but so much remains unsolved. As we continue to examine the remnants of Qeiyafa, we are left to ponder: Who were the people who lived here, and why did they vanish so suddenly? What was the true nature of their society, and what secrets lie hidden beneath the layers of time? The answers may never be fully uncovered, but the mysteries of Khirbet Qeiyafa continue to provoke thought, speculation, and a deeper longing to understand the elusive past of this fascinating region. Nestled among the windswept hills of the Isle of Lewis in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland, stands an ancient monument that has fascinated archaeologists and historians for centuries. Carloway. A brooding stone structure that has withstood the test of time, this Iron Age broch, a type of roundhouse, is an enigma, a silent witness to the distant past, carrying within its walls the story of a people who have long since disappeared. Yet, despite its grandeur and its age, the mystery of Carloway remains unresolved, and the questions it raises about its purpose, its builders, and its ultimate fate continue to spark speculation and intrigue. The brooch rises out of the landscape, a testament to the ancient people who built it over 2,000 years ago. Standing over 13 feet tall, with thick stone walls that once encircled a central chamber, Carloway is an imposing structure. Its walls are nearly 10 feet thick at the base, tapering as they rise. The stones used in its construction are massive, carefully fitted together with remarkable precision, creating a stronghold that seems to defy the elements, as though it were built to last for eternity. Yet, what was its purpose? Was it a fortification, a residence, or perhaps something entirely different, a place of ritual or symbolism? Carloway is not unique in its type. Brochs like it are scattered across the northern and western parts of Scotland, with a peak in construction occurring between 500 BC and 100 AD. However, what makes Carloway stand out is the remarkable state of preservation. Unlike many other brochs, which have crumbled into ruin over the centuries, Carloway still stands relatively intact. The structure is not merely a pile of stones, but a towering circular edifice that seems to invite questions about its creators and their intentions. Its location, too, adds to the mystery. Perched atop a small hill, the broch commands a commanding view of the surrounding landscape, which consists of rolling hills, rugged terrain, and the distant sea. Why, in a place so remote and isolated, would such an imposing structure be built? The broch's thick walls suggest it was built with a defensive purpose in mind, but there is no clear evidence that it was ever involved in warfare. The site's strategic location would indeed have made it an ideal defensive position, surrounded by a natural landscape that could have easily been used to spot approaching enemies. However, this raises an important question. Was it really intended to be a fortress? Or was its design and location meant to convey something else entirely? Was it a symbol of power or status? Or perhaps, more intriguingly, was it a structure used for something we cannot yet comprehend? Something that transcends mere defense? The interior of Carloway offers few clues. The broch's central chamber is circular, and the walls are partitioned into two main sections. There is a stone staircase that once led up to a gallery, now mostly collapsed, which would have provided an upper level, perhaps used for storage or living quarters. But the absence of elaborate features, no decoration, no clear evidence of luxury, suggests that this was not the home of an elite class, as one might expect from such a substantial structure. Rather, it may have served a different function entirely. Could this have been a place of gathering for a community, where important decisions were made, or even a spiritual or ceremonial space? There are no clear answers, only a sense of mystery that continues to linger within the broch's stone walls. Interestingly, archaeological digs around the broch have uncovered some evidence that may offer clues to its purpose. The area surrounding the site contains remnants of other structures, including smaller stone buildings and artifacts such as pottery, animal bones, and tools. These artifacts suggest that the people who built and lived in Carloway were part of a thriving community, likely engaged in farming, animal husbandry, and trade. The pottery found at the site is of particular interest, as it shows clear signs of skilled craftsmanship and even hints at cultural influences from other parts of the ancient world, perhaps suggesting connections with other peoples in the broader Celtic or pre-Celtic world. Despite these finds, there remains a great deal of speculation about who the builders of Dun Carloway were. Most scholars agree that they were part of a broader Celtic culture, living in a time when society was transitioning from a tribal, nomadic lifestyle to a more settled and complex way of life. But the precise identity of the people who built this broch, and their relationship to other cultures in the British Isles and beyond, remains unclear. Were they a distinct people, isolated from the wider world, or were they part of a larger network of tribes that spanned the islands of the North Atlantic? Could there be a connection between the builders of Dun Carloway and other cultures, like those in Ireland, Scandinavia, or even the distant reaches of the Mediterranean? One of the most enduring questions surrounding Dun Carloway is its sudden abandonment. Like many ancient sites, Dun Carloway was eventually abandoned, likely sometime after the 1st century A.D. Yet, as with the site's purpose, the reason for its desertion remains unclear. Was it the result of warfare, internal strife, or changing economic conditions? The structure's location, so far removed from the larger, more populous centers of the time, suggests that it may have fallen out of use as communities began to consolidate and expand. As trade routes shifted and new technologies emerged, it is possible that Dun Carloway's strategic importance waned. But could there be something more to the story of its abandonment? Was it left behind not due to external pressures, but because the people who built it had fulfilled a deeper, perhaps ritualistic purpose, and once that was achieved, the structure lost its significance? Some have suggested that Dun Carloway may have had a spiritual or ceremonial role. Its massive scale and commanding presence in the landscape could indicate that it was not just a utilitarian structure, but a symbolic one, an enduring representation of the community's beliefs or power. It could have served as a site for rituals, possibly associated with the changing seasons, the dead, or even the ancestors. The fact that it was built in such a remote location, surrounded by nothing but the natural world, could also suggest that it was intended to mark a threshold between the physical world and a spiritual one. Another theory, based on the structure's defensive qualities, is that it was a fortress, perhaps built to protect a ruling elite from outside invaders. But the lack of evidence for prolonged warfare at the site makes this theory less convincing. Was Dun Carloway merely a marker of power, a status symbol for a community that sought to leave an indelible mark on the landscape? Or could it have had a more esoteric, even ceremonial role that we cannot fully understand today? Whatever its purpose, Dun Carloway remains a compelling mystery. The broch's immense stone walls, its isolated location, and its enduring presence in the landscape all contribute to the sense that it was more than just a functional structure. The absence of clear answers only adds to the sense of intrigue that surrounds the site. Was it a fortress, a ceremonial center, or something else entirely? As we stand before the towering walls of Dun Carloway, looking out over the windswept hills of the Isle of Lewis, we are left to wonder, what was the true purpose of this enigmatic structure? What secrets did its builders intend to keep hidden in its stone walls, and why was it abandoned so suddenly, with so many unanswered questions? The story of Dun Carloway may never be fully revealed, but its mystery will continue to captivate those who venture into the heart of Scotland's ancient past, searching for clues to a civilization that has long since disappeared into the mists of time. What might still lie hidden beneath its stones, waiting to be discovered? Only time will tell. Nestled deep in the heart of Veracruz, Mexico, the Cempoala stone circles rise from the earth, enigmatic and silent. These ancient formations, often overlooked in the shadow of more famous Mesoamerican ruins, carry within them a story that is at once familiar and entirely alien to modern understanding. The stone circles, spread across the landscape near the ruins of the ancient city of Cempoala, have captivated archaeologists, historians, and explorers for decades, but their purpose and origin remain shrouded in mystery. Cempoala, once a vibrant and powerful city, was part of the ancient civilization known as the Totonac people, who thrived in this region long before the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century. The stone circles found near the city are striking, not only for their size and shape, but for the unanswered questions they raise. Unlike the familiar geometric precision of the Maya or the grandeur of the Aztecs, these circles have a haunting simplicity, large stones arranged in wide, open rings, each one carefully placed, yet seemingly without any definitive explanation for their purpose. The Cempoala stone circles are part of a broader complex of ancient sites in the region, which includes temples, ceremonial platforms, and other enigmatic stone formations. But while these structures are intriguing in their own right, the stone circles themselves hold a unique allure. The rings of stones are often scattered across the land, sometimes in perfect circles, other times more irregular in shape. Some of the stones stand upright, while others lie flat against the earth, worn down by centuries of wind and rain. At first glance, the stone circles may seem like simple relics of an ancient people, perhaps a form of early astronomical observation or ritualistic space. However, as researchers have begun to study the site in greater detail, it has become clear that the circles are far more complex and mysterious than originally thought. The arrangement of the stones seems intentional, yet there is no written record from the Totonac people to explain their purpose. What was the significance of these rings? Were they used for ceremonies? And if so, what kind of ceremonies took place here, in the shadow of the ancient city? One of the most fascinating aspects of the Cempoala stone circles is the fact that they seem to be aligned with certain celestial events, much like other ancient Mesoamerican sites. The stone's positions, while not as precise as those at the more famous Chichen Itza or Teotihuacan, suggest that the people who constructed these circles had an intimate understanding of the movements of the stars, the sun, and the moon. The fact that these stones might have served as markers for seasonal changes or significant celestial events raises the intriguing possibility that the Totonac were using the site for astronomical observations, just as many other ancient cultures did. However, there is little direct evidence to support this theory. Unlike the Maya, whose advanced understanding of astronomy is well documented through their codices and other written records, the Totonac left behind no written texts to explain the purpose of these circles. In fact, the Cempoala stone circles are entirely devoid of any known inscriptions or carvings, which leaves archaeologists in the dark as to their precise meaning. This absence of written evidence makes it difficult to draw definitive conclusions, and as a result, the stone circles remain open to interpretation. Some scholars have suggested that the Cempoala stone circles were part of a larger ceremonial complex, where the Totonac performed rituals to honor their gods. This is certainly a plausible theory, given the Totonac's well-documented history of religious devotion and their belief in powerful deities connected to natural forces such as the sun, rain, and fertility. The Totonac people were known to practice a form of ritual sacrifice, which may have been conducted at sacred sites like the stone circles. However, this theory raises questions of its own. Why were the stone circles arranged in such a way, and what significance did the circular shape hold for the Totonac? Could the arrangement of the stones represent something deeper, a reflection of the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth, or perhaps an expression of the cosmic order? Another theory posits that the stone circles were not primarily ceremonial, but rather served a more practical function as territorial markers or as symbols of power. In many ancient cultures, large stone structures or arrangements were used to demarcate land or to assert dominance over a particular area, The Totonac were a powerful people who controlled vast territories in what is now Veracruz and parts of Puebla, and it is possible that the stone circles were built as a means of reinforcing their authority. By constructing such imposing structures, they may have been sending a message to neighboring tribes about their power and influence. If this was the case, then the Cempoala stone circles could have been a symbol of both religious and political authority, combining the sacred with the secular in a way that was common among ancient cultures. The alignment of the stone circles with certain celestial events also invites speculation that these rings may have been linked to calendar systems. The Totonac, like other Mesoamerican cultures, had a sophisticated understanding of time and the cycles of the natural world. They likely tracked the movements of the sun and the stars, and their agricultural practices would have been closely tied to the changing seasons. Could the stone circles have been used to track these cycles, marking the passage of time in a way that was integral to the Totonac's agricultural economy and their religious practices? Beyond these theories, there are also more speculative ideas that have been put forward to explain the Cempoala stone circles. Some have suggested that the site may have been a place of ancient knowledge, where the Totonac passed down esoteric wisdom related to astronomy, mathematics, and other sciences. In a world where writing had not yet fully emerged, it is conceivable that the stone circles served as a kind of mnemonic device, helping to preserve and transmit knowledge across generations. Could these stones have been a form of stone tablets, inscribed not with words, but with the alignments of the stars and the sacred rhythms of the universe? And then, there is the most intriguing question of all. Why have these stone circles remained so largely forgotten? While the nearby city of Cempoala is often studied and admired for its role in the ancient world, the stone circles are relatively unknown outside of academic circles. Their obscure location, tucked away in the countryside, has kept them off the beaten path of mainstream archaeology. Could it be that the full extent of the Cempoala stone circle's significance is still hidden, waiting for future generations to uncover their secrets? The absence of clear evidence may be why these stones have remained elusive to archaeologists, or perhaps the full story of the site is yet to be told, hidden beneath layers of time and memory. As we ponder the mystery of the Cempoala stone circles, we are reminded of how much of the ancient world remains unknown, even in the age of modern archaeology. These circles, with their silence and their stillness, continue to stand as a testament to the ingenuity and spirituality of the people who once inhabited this region. But as we attempt to decipher their meaning, we are left with a haunting question. What if we are missing something fundamental, a key to understanding their true purpose that has eluded us for centuries? The Cempoala stone circles invite us to consider not just what we know, but what we have yet to learn about the people who built them. What might they have understood that we do not? Could there be hidden knowledge embedded in the stones themselves, a forgotten language of the stars, or a deeper connection to the forces of nature? As with so many ancient mysteries, the answers remain tantalizingly out of reach, but the journey to uncover them continues, leaving us to wonder what the future might reveal about this extraordinary site. The lack of written records makes it difficult to draw definitive conclusions about the creators of the Marcahuasi formations. The Inca, who ruled over much of the Andes in the 15th and 16th centuries, left behind an extensive record of their civilization, including the famous quipus, not encoded string records, and other forms of documentation. However, no such records exist for Marcahuasi. The site predates the Inca by several centuries, perhaps even millennia, and its builders left no inscriptions or written clues to explain their intentions. This absence of direct evidence only deepens the mystery, leaving us to rely on speculation and the interpretation of the site's physical features. One of the most striking features of Marcahuasi is the way the stone formations seem to align with the landscape around them. The site is located in a region where the Andes meet the Peruvian coastal desert, a place where the natural world is as harsh as it is beautiful. The vast, wind-swept plateau is punctuated by jagged peaks, and the formations themselves seem to be positioned with a purpose, as though they were placed in relation to the surrounding mountains, the stars, or the sun. Some have even suggested that the formations at Marcahuasi may have served as astronomical markers, aligning with the solstices or other celestial events. Was the site a kind of ancient observatory used to track the movements of the stars and the changing seasons? Or was it a ritual site where the natural world and the cosmos were worshipped and revered? The idea of Marcahuasi as an astronomical site is not without precedent. Other ancient cultures, from the Egyptians to the Maya, constructed monumental structures that aligned with celestial bodies, and it is possible that the people of Marcahuasi did the same. Yet, there is little hard evidence to support this theory. Without the direct testimony of the people who built the site, we can only speculate about their intentions and the role Marcahuasi played in their culture. Could the stone formations be part of a larger system of astronomical knowledge, passed down through generations? Or were they something more? Symbols of a lost spiritual or philosophical system that we cannot fully understand today? Another fringe theory suggests that the Marcahuasi stone formations may not be the work of humans at all. Some proponents of this idea speculate that the formations are the remnants of a long-lost civilization or even an ancient extraterrestrial presence. According to this theory, the precision and complexity of the shapes could not have been the work of primitive humans, but rather the result of advanced technology or intervention. While such ideas are often met with skepticism, they nevertheless add an additional layer of intrigue to the mystery of Marcahuasi. Could the site be evidence of a much older, forgotten civilization, one that was either destroyed or left behind no trace except for these cryptic stone formations? As we stand on the wind-swept plateau of Marcahuasi, gazing out at the massive stone faces and animal figures that dot the landscape, we are confronted with a profound mystery. Were these formations created by the hand of an ancient, unknown people, or are they simply the result of nature's whims? Was Marcahuasi a sacred site, a place of worship and ritual, or a monument to the gods of a long-lost civilization? The absence of clear answers leaves us to wonder, what might still lie hidden in this desolate highland, waiting to be discovered? And will we ever truly understand the purpose behind these strange, silent stones? The enigma of Marcahuasi, like so many ancient sites, invites us to consider the possibility that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. As we peer into the past, we find ourselves questioning not just the people who built these formations, but the very nature of history itself, what we know, what we don't, and what may still be waiting to be uncovered. High in the Andean mountains, at an altitude of over 13,000 feet, lies a vast plateau known as Marcahuasi. This remote site, located about 30 miles east of Lima, Peru, is home to a series of strange and enigmatic stone formations, so intricate and evocative that they have long sparked debate and fascination among archaeologists, researchers, and explorers. Marcahuasi, often referred to as the Stone Forest, is a place where massive boulders, carved by nature, or perhaps something more, seem to defy the logic of geology. Some appear as massive human faces, others take the shape of animals, and still others bear an uncanny resemblance to architectural structures. It is a landscape of mystery, a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary collide. The stone formations of Marcahuasi stretch across a vast area, covering several square miles. At first glance, they may appear to be nothing more than naturally weathered rocks, worn down by millennia of wind and rain. However, upon closer inspection, many of these stones reveal strikingly distinct shapes that seem far too deliberate to be the product of erosion alone. Among the most famous of these formations are the enormous faces carved into the stones, some of which appear to depict human figures with clearly defined facial features, including eyes, noses, and mouths. Others bear the unmistakable outline of animal shapes, lions, jaguars, and even birds, etched into the rock as if by a sculptor's hand. What makes Marcahuasi truly captivating, however, is the sheer scale and complexity of these formations. The stone faces and figures are not isolated. They appear in clusters, as though they belong to a larger, more intricate design, scattered across the plateau like a cosmic puzzle waiting to be solved. Some of the formations are so precise in their proportions that it is hard to dismiss them as mere coincidence. The human-like faces, for example, are not simply crude approximations, but appear to follow certain artistic conventions, eyes aligned, features proportioned with care, and expressions that evoke emotion. They seem as though they were made by a culture that had a deep understanding of form and design, yet the mystery remains. Who could have created these sculptures, and why? The age of the Marcahuasi stone formations is another source of intrigue. While the site itself has been known to local inhabitants for centuries, it was not until the mid-20th century that archaeologists and explorers began to take notice. The first documented descriptions of the site date back to 1950, when the American explorer and anthropologist Daniel R. Pohl visited the area and became one of the first to draw attention to the extraordinary shapes of the rocks. Since then, a handful of archaeological expeditions have studied the formations, but there has yet to be any definitive explanation for their origin or purpose. Some researchers suggest that the stone formations at Marcahuasi are the result of natural processes, an example of pareidolia, the human tendency to recognize familiar shapes in random patterns. According to this view, the apparent faces and figures are simply the result of wind, rain, and time shaping the rock into patterns that happen to resemble human and animal forms. But this explanation raises a number of questions. For one, why do the formations appear to be arranged in a manner that suggests intentionality? Why do they appear in clusters, as though part of a larger design, rather than scattered randomly across the plateau? Could it be that nature, acting alone, has somehow sculpted these stones into shapes that mirror the artistic conventions of human craftsmanship? Others have proposed that the formations are evidence of a lost civilization, one that existed long before the Inca, and that the stone faces and animals were created by a people who possessed advanced knowledge of stone carving and monumental architecture. This theory is bolstered by the fact that Marcahuasi is located in an area rich in pre-Columbian ruins, including the remnants of ancient agricultural terraces, ceremonial platforms, and other structures that hint at a once thriving society. If this theory is correct, the stone formations at Marcahuasi may be the remnants of an ancient culture whose identity has been lost to time. Could the faces and figures carved into the rocks represent the gods or ancestors of this forgotten people? Was Marcahuasi once a sacred site, a place where the living could communicate with the divine through art and stone? In the remote hills of Mpaluzi, a village located in the northeastern part of South Africa, a singular, unnerving mystery stands frozen in time, an enormous footprint carved into the bedrock. This giant impression, etched into the earth, defies conventional explanations and continues to challenge the boundaries of archaeology, history, and even the natural sciences. The giant footprint of Mpaluzi has long captivated those who have had the chance to see it. But like many other ancient enigmas, it raises more questions than answers. The footprint measures over 1.2 meters, about 4 feet in length, making it several times the size of a human footprint, even for someone of exceptional stature. The depression itself is sharply defined, its edges as crisp as though it had been carved deliberately into the rock. If one did not know better, it would appear to be the work of an ancient giant, perhaps a figure from myth or legend, whose footsteps have somehow been preserved in the stone. The scale of the footprint, the precision of its shape, and the location in which it is found raise immediate questions. Who or what could have left this massive imprint? And why has it remained hidden for so long? The discovery of the giant footprint of Mpaluzi dates back to the late 19th century, when local farmers and villagers first began noticing the strange formation while traversing the hillsides. Early explorers and researchers quickly became intrigued by the footprint, yet many dismissed it as a natural phenomenon, a mere trick of erosion or weathering. According to these skeptics, the formation could have been created by natural forces, such as water, wind, or the gradual expansion and contraction of rock over time. But even this explanation does little to resolve the larger mystery. Why does the impression appear so intentionally shaped, almost like the outline of a foot pressed into the ground? And why, after centuries of exposure to the elements, does it remain so remarkably intact? Despite its apparent naturalness, the giant footprint has often been associated with a sense of the supernatural. Over time, local folklore has woven the formation into stories of giants and ancient gods. In the traditions of the area, some believe the footprint is the mark of an ancient being, a giant who once roamed the land, leaving behind a trace of his existence for posterity. The region itself is rich in myth and legend, with tales of titans, gods, and spirits who walked the earth long before modern humans emerged. Is it possible that the giant footprint is a remnant of these ancient stories, a tangible connection to a time when giants roamed the earth? Archaeologists who have studied the footprint have found no definitive evidence to confirm or deny the idea of giant beings from myth. No artifacts or other structures have been uncovered in the area that might provide context to the giant's presence. Still, the imprint persists, its presence in the landscape too striking to dismiss outright. Is it possible that the footprint could be evidence of something beyond the realm of natural explanation, something that we are yet to fully understand? One of the prevailing theories about the Mpaluzi footprint is that it could be the result of an ancient civilization, one whose knowledge of stoneworking and sculpture was so advanced that they created this giant mark as a form of artistic or religious expression. Some have suggested that the footprint may have been created as part of a ritualistic practice, where the creation of such massive forms was thought to honor or communicate with powerful deities. Ancient cultures, from the Egyptians to the Maya, often created large-scale monuments, temples, pyramids, and statues that sought to impress or invoke gods and spirits. Could this footprint be part of a similar tradition, an ancient offering left in the landscape to mark a sacred space or commemorate a divine presence? But the idea that this giant footprint is simply the work of a lost civilization raises another question. Who were these people, and why have they left no trace of themselves other than this curious and isolated feature? South Africa has a long and rich history of indigenous cultures, including the Khoisan, Zulu, and many other tribal nations. But there is no direct evidence that any of these peoples were involved in the creation of the footprint. In fact, the impression itself appears far older than any known archaeological evidence of human activity in the region. The lack of associated artifacts only deepens the mystery. Why would an advanced civilization leave behind only a single isolated footprint in the stone? Another theory posits that the giant footprint of Mpaluzi is not man-made at all, but rather the product of natural geological processes. According to this theory, the footprint may have been formed by an unusual combination of factors, a peculiar interaction between the forces of erosion, weathering, and perhaps even seismic activity that caused the rock to take on the shape of a footprint. While this explanation seems plausible on the surface, it fails to account for the distinctiveness of the formation. The edges of the footprint are too defined, the shape too precise, to be entirely the result of chance. Could it be that this is a case of natural forces creating an uncanny resemblance to something familiar, like faces seen in clouds or patterns in the rocks that seem to suggest meaning where none was intended? Some have even speculated that the footprint may be evidence of a prehistoric humanoid species, one that lived on Earth long before modern humans emerged. The idea of ancient humanoids, or giants, is a popular concept in both folklore and fringe science. There are numerous myths and legends across cultures that describe giant beings who once inhabited the Earth, and in many cases, these stories share common features. The giants are said to have been larger than ordinary humans, sometimes possessing extraordinary strength or wisdom. Could the giant footprint be evidence of such beings? While mainstream science has largely rejected the idea of giants as a historical reality, the footprint's scale raises the question: could there have been creatures of immense size that once roamed the Earth, leaving behind traces of their existence in ways that we are still trying to understand? Still, mainstream archaeologists and geologists remain skeptical of such theories. Most agree that the giant footprint is likely a natural formation, albeit one that has been shaped over time to resemble a foot. Yet, the precision of its outline and its sheer size still leave room for doubt. What if the true explanation for the Mpaluzi footprint lies beyond the conventional understanding of natural processes? Could it be that there is still something about the Earth's geology and history that we have yet to comprehend fully? Perhaps the greatest mystery of all lies in the lack of further evidence. Unlike other ancient sites, which often come with a wealth of associated artifacts, inscriptions, and remains, the giant footprint of Mpaluzi stands alone. There are no tools, no bones, no structures nearby to offer context or insight. It is as though the footprint was deliberately placed, as though it were meant to be discovered long after its creation, as if it were meant to remain a riddle for future generations. As we ponder the existence of this giant footprint, we are left with more questions than answers. What could have caused such a formation? Could it be the work of an ancient civilization, a natural anomaly, or something more fantastical? The footprint, in its silent and unyielding presence, invites us to look beyond the conventional explanations, to wonder if there might be something in the history of the Earth that remains hidden from view. What knowledge, what secrets, might still be waiting to be uncovered in places like Mpaluzi? In the end, the giant footprint of Mpaluzi remains a testament to the mysteries that persist in our world, mysteries that, no matter how much we study or speculate, may never be fully understood. And yet, the search for answers continues, driven by a deep, shared desire to know more about the past and to uncover the secrets of those who came before us. Hidden in the rugged Andean highlands of Peru, at an elevation of around 3,150 meters, 10,300 feet, lies the ancient archaeological site of Chavín de Huántar, a place where stone temples, intricate carvings, and subterranean passages intertwine. Chavín is one of the most fascinating and enigmatic remnants of pre-Columbian South America. Thought to have flourished between 900 and 200 BC, it served as the center of the Chavín culture, a civilization whose influence spread throughout the Andean region, yet whose origins and purposes remain shrouded in mystery. Upon first entering the site, visitors are immediately struck by the sheer scale of the ruins and the ingenuity of the structures. Chavín de Huántar is not just a temple complex. It's a carefully designed city, laid out with a distinct purpose. Massive stone terraces, walls, and plazas, some of them still standing after over 2 millennia, serve as the skeletal framework of this ancient center. At the heart of the site sits the Old Temple, a monumental structure that once housed a complex network of underground passages, chambers, and ceremonial spaces. These subterranean tunnels, constructed with precision and aligned in such a way as to manipulate acoustics and light, have led many to speculate that the temple served not only as a center of political power, but also as a sacred space where the Chavín people conducted ritualistic ceremonies that were deeply entwined with their beliefs in the spiritual world. The most iconic element of Chavín de Huántar is the intricate carvings that adorn the walls, columns, and stone reliefs. These carvings depict a range of enigmatic figures, from fierce, snarling animals, such as jaguars and serpents, to human-like deities with exaggerated facial features. The most famous of these carvings is the Lanzon Stela, a towering stone monolith found inside the old temple. The Lanzon Stela is considered the spiritual heart of Chavín, with its massive stylized image of a deity whose features shift between human and animal forms. The image represents an entity that may have been part of a shamanistic belief system, where the ability to transform into powerful animals or gods was central to the Chavín worldview. But what purpose did these enigmatic carvings and designs serve? And who were the people behind the construction of Chavín de Huántar? Though the Chavín civilization's cultural influence stretched across much of the Andean region, little is known about the specific individuals or groups responsible for its creation. What is clear, however, is that Chavín de Huántar served as a major religious and political center, attracting pilgrims and leaders from far and wide. Its complex system of ceremonial tunnels, acoustically resonant chambers, and strategically placed altars suggests that the site was designed with great care and a deep understanding of both architecture and spirituality. The site's impressive acoustics, in particular, have led some researchers to propose that the sound produced within the temple's chambers may have played a key role in its rituals. The reverberations within these spaces could have created an almost otherworldly atmosphere, amplifying the voices of priests or shamans as they performed their ceremonies, potentially inducing trance-like states in those present. Yet, there are still questions that persist about the true nature of these ceremonies. Were they simply religious rituals, or did they involve something more? The acoustics of the temple might suggest that the sounds within the chambers had a powerful effect on the human psyche. Could it be that the Chavín priests used sound manipulation, perhaps combined with hallucinogenic substances, to create mystical experiences for the participants? Such theories are not without merit, as other ancient cultures, such as the Maya and Aztecs, used ritualistic drugs and sound in their ceremonies to facilitate spiritual experiences. But at Chavín, the exact nature of these practices remains speculative. No written records or direct evidence have been found to explain the specifics of the rituals that once took place within the walls of the temple. Another striking feature of Chavín de Huántar is its advanced engineering. The site is a marvel of hydraulic engineering, with canals and drainage systems that were designed to control the flow of water and manage the surrounding environment. These features suggest that the Chavín were not only adept at architectural and ceremonial design, but also at managing natural resources. Their ability to manipulate the landscape to suit their needs speaks to an advanced understanding of both nature and engineering, making Chavín de Huántar a site that continues to defy easy categorization. How did such an early civilization achieve such feats of engineering, and what drove them to develop these systems? Was their technology the product of trial and error, or did they have access to knowledge that has since been lost to time? The mysteries surrounding Chavín de Huántar deepen when we consider the possibility that it was not only a center of religious power, but also a hub for cultural exchange. Chavín culture is known to have spread far beyond the site itself, influencing other ancient Andean civilizations such as the Nazca, Moche, and even the later Inca. The iconography and religious practices associated with Chavín were absorbed by these cultures, which suggests that Chavín may have been more than just a local center. It may have been a kind of ancient pilgrimage destination, where ideas, technologies, and beliefs were exchanged between diverse peoples. But what made Chavín such an influential force? What was it about the site that attracted so many different peoples, and why did its influence persist long after the civilization that created it had vanished? One theory is that Chavín de Huántar was a place where powerful charismatic leaders, or priests, emerged who were able to unite disparate groups under a common religious or spiritual banner. Perhaps it was the site's perceived connection to the divine, coupled with its impressive architecture and acoustics, that made it a powerful center of influence. Or perhaps the priests who operated within the temple played a central role in uniting the Andean peoples through the shared experience of spiritual transformation, facilitated by the rituals and ceremonies that took place there. Was the power of Chavín linked to a specific group of individuals, or was it a broader, more communal effort that involved the cooperation of many people across generations? Adding to the intrigue of Chavín de Huántar is its location in the Andean highlands, which itself has long been a symbol of mystery. The Andean mountains have served as a source of awe and reverence for many civilizations throughout history, and Chavín de Huántar seems to have been deliberately placed within this sacred landscape. The high-altitude location may have given the site an otherworldly quality, intensifying the sense of mystery that continues to surround it. Did the people who built Chavín de Huántar believe that their connection to the divine was somehow heightened by the surrounding mountains, or was the location chosen for its strategic advantages, both in terms of defense and access to surrounding resources? But perhaps the most compelling question is why Chavín de Huántar ultimately fell into decline. By the time the Inca Empire rose to prominence, the Chavín civilization had already faded into obscurity. The reasons for this decline remain unclear. Was it the result of a shift in religious or political power? Did the site lose its influence as new belief systems emerged? Or was it something more profound, a cultural or spiritual collapse, perhaps brought on by internal strife or external forces? The fall of Chavín de Huántar remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of ancient history, adding another layer of complexity to an already enigmatic site. As we look back at Chavín de Huántar, it becomes clear that this site is far more than just a collection of ancient ruins. It is a window into a world long gone, one that continues to elude our full understanding. The mysteries of the site, its religious practices, its architectural achievements, and its cultural influence remain unresolved, leaving us to wonder what might still be hidden beneath the stones of this sacred place. What secrets might lie buried beneath the temple's shadow, waiting to be uncovered by future generations? And what was it about Chavín de Huántar that allowed it to leave such a lasting imprint on the Andean world? As the shadows of the past continue to cast their enigmatic reach across the landscape, we are left to ponder, what exactly did the Chavín people know, and what have we yet to discover? In the heart of Sudan, amidst the arid landscape of Nubia, there lies a site that echoes with ancient power and mystery, the Kerma Deffufa. Towering above the surrounding desert, the Deffufa is a massive mud brick structure, its imposing shape rising from the earth like a forgotten monument to a civilization long past. Standing over 20 meters tall and surrounded by the remnants of ancient settlements, the Deffufa is a striking reminder of the Kerma culture, one of the oldest and most powerful kingdoms of the ancient world. Yet it remains one of the least understood. Kerma, the ancient kingdom of Nubia, thrived from around 2500 BC to 1500 BC, making it one of the earliest civilizations to rise along the banks of the Nile. The city of Kerma itself, once a thriving metropolis, is now little more than a series of ruins, yet it was once the center of a powerful kingdom that held sway over much of the Nubian region. The Deffufa, the massive brick structure at its heart, is thought to have been a religious and political center, a place of both earthly and divine power. The structure of the Deffufa is unique, especially considering the time period in which it was built. Its mud brick walls, which have weathered thousands of years of sandstorms and neglect, still bear the imprints of the builder's techniques. Yet how this massive structure was created with such precision and scale remains a topic of intense curiosity. The Deffufa was not simply a monumental building, but rather a monumental feat of engineering. It was constructed without the use of mortar, with each brick placed carefully atop the other, yet its strength and resilience are undeniable. How did the people of Kerma, who had no access to the advanced technology of the ancient Egyptians, manage to build such an impressive structure? What inspired them to create such a monumental structure in the first place? One theory suggests that the Deffufa was a temple built to honor the gods and serve as a center for religious ceremonies. In the ancient world, religious buildings often held immense significance, not just spiritually, but also politically. The Deffufa, with its imposing presence, may have been a place where kings and priests performed rituals designed to ensure the prosperity and security of the kingdom. But the exact nature of these ceremonies remains speculative, as there is no written record to confirm their details. Did the priests of Kerma worship the same gods as their Egyptian neighbors, or did they have their own pantheon of deities? And if so, what was the nature of their rituals, and how did they shape the kingdom's power? The lack of written records from the Kerma civilization adds another layer of intrigue to the site. The Egyptians, their powerful neighbors to the north, left behind detailed inscriptions and records that document their history, religion, and culture. In contrast, the people of Kerma left no such evidence. There are no hieroglyphs or inscriptions to shed light on the civilization's leaders, their religious beliefs, or their daily lives. The absence of these records forces archaeologists to rely on other sources of evidence, such as material culture, pottery, and burial practices, to piece together the history of the Kerma kingdom. But even with these fragments, many questions remain unanswered. Despite its importance, the Kerma kingdom was largely overshadowed by the rise of Egypt. The Egyptians, with their advanced technology and military might, eventually conquered Nubia, and over time, the once great kingdom of Kerma faded into obscurity. Yet, the legacy of Kerma and the Deffufa still lingers, particularly in the rich material culture left behind. The tombs of Kerma, for example, have yielded a wealth of artifacts, jewelry, pottery, weapons, that hint at the sophistication of the civilization. These items speak to a people who were not only skilled craftsmen, but also adept at trade and diplomacy, maintaining connections with far-flung regions along the Nile. One of the most striking elements of Kerma's archaeological record is the sheer size and scale of its royal tombs. These tombs, known as Deffufa tombs, are thought to have been the final resting places of the kingdom's rulers. The largest tomb, located near the Deffufa itself, contains the remains of a powerful ruler, whose burial goods suggest that this individual held significant authority. The tombs are filled with a wealth of grave goods, ceramics, jewelry, and even elaborate weapons, demonstrating that the rulers of Kerma were not only political leaders, but also spiritual figures who were buried with items meant to accompany them in the afterlife. What did these grave goods signify about the ruler's role in society? And why was such wealth buried with them? The tombs also reveal something else, an intriguing and mysterious element that challenges the conventional understanding of Nubian society. Among the artifacts found in the tombs are items that suggest a deep connection to Egyptian culture. Fine pottery, for example, bears unmistakable Egyptian stylistic influences. Yet there is no clear evidence that the Kerma people were directly governed by Egypt at this time. Instead, these items suggest a complex relationship, one of trade, diplomacy, or even cultural exchange, between the two great powers. Did the Kerma kingdom view Egypt as a distant influence, or was there a deeper, more symbiotic relationship between the two civilizations that we have yet to fully understand? One of the most perplexing aspects of Kerma and the Deffufa is its ultimate decline. By the time the new kingdom of Egypt emerged around 1500 BC, Kerma had already fallen. The Egyptians, under Pharaoh Thutmose I, conquered the region, marking the end of the independent Kerma kingdom. Yet, the reasons for its decline remain unclear. Was it a result of military conquest, or did internal factors, such as political instability or economic decline, contribute to the kingdom's fall? The lack of written records, coupled with the absence of significant evidence detailing the final days of Kerma, leaves us with only speculation. Some have suggested that the decline of Kerma was the result of shifting trade routes or environmental factors that led to resource shortages. Others propose that the kingdom's leaders may have overextended their power, provoking conflict with neighboring cultures. There is also the possibility that, like many ancient kingdoms, Kerma simply faded into history, overwhelmed by the rise of stronger powers to the north. But without concrete evidence, the true reasons for Kerma's fall remain as elusive as the civilization itself. Today, the Deffufa and the ruins of Kerma stand as silent witnesses to the once mighty kingdom that once ruled over the Nubian region. The site, although heavily eroded by time and weather, remains a testament to the ingenuity and ambition of the people who built it. Yet, for all that we have uncovered, much remains hidden. What knowledge did the priests and rulers of Kerma possess? What role did the Deffufa play in the kingdom's religious and political life? And what drove this great civilization to rise and fall so rapidly, leaving behind only fragments of its former glory? As the sands of time continue to shift over the ruins, the mysteries of Kerma and its Deffufa remain unresolved. What secrets might still be buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? And what does the legacy of this ancient civilization have to teach us about the forces that shape the rise and fall of great empires? The answers, it seems, are buried deep in the desert, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Deep in the heart of the Brazilian Amazon, among the dense canopies of towering trees and the constant hum of the jungle, lies a site that has captivated archaeologists and historians alike: the Monte Alegre rock shelters. Situated along the banks of the Rio Trombetas in the northern part of Brazil, this extraordinary location holds the potential to rewrite our understanding of prehistoric human life in South America. Here, beneath the jagged cliffs and sheltered caves, lie clues to a past that remains tantalizingly out of reach, hidden beneath layers of time and vegetation. The Monte Alegre rock shelters are a collection of caves and overhangs that have served as ancient homes, sanctuaries, and burial sites. The area is renowned for its well-preserved cave art, which stretches back over 12,000 years. The images, etched and painted onto the stone walls, depict a fascinating array of motifs: wild animals, geometric patterns, and what some scholars interpret as ritualistic symbols. The artwork suggests that the early inhabitants of this region were not only skilled in survival, but also in communication and expression, able to convey complex ideas and beliefs through their art. Walking among the rock shelters today, it's easy to imagine the people who once sought refuge here. The towering cliffs above offer shelter from the rains, while the surrounding forest teems with life: monkeys, birds, and insects filling the air with sound. The shelters themselves are nestled into the landscape, carved by centuries of erosion, but the walls still bear the mark of human hands. Some paintings are faded, almost indistinguishable, while others are vivid, as if they were created just yesterday. These ancient artists left behind more than mere decorations. They left behind a window into their world, their beliefs, and their way of life. The art is not the only intriguing feature of the Monte Alegre rock shelters. The site has also revealed evidence of early human habitation, including stone tools, pottery fragments, and remnants of the plants and animals that once sustained these early communities. Some of the most striking discoveries are the bones of extinct megafauna, such as the giant sloth and the mastodon, which have been found in the vicinity of the shelters. These discoveries suggest that the people of Monte Alegre were among the last to encounter these massive creatures before their eventual extinction. Did they hunt these creatures? Or were they merely witnesses to their decline? The evidence remains unclear, but the presence of these bones adds yet another layer of mystery to the site. Yet, the most intriguing aspect of Monte Alegre isn't just what has been found, but what remains hidden beneath the surface. Despite the wealth of discoveries made here, many questions still remain. Who were the people who left these markings on the walls? What drove them to create such intricate works of art? And what role did the caves play in their daily lives and spiritual practices? While much has been uncovered, the true significance of the site remains elusive. The most well-known and enigmatic of the rock paintings at Monte Alegre are those that depict what appear to be human figures, some with exaggerated features, others adorned with complex headdresses or symbols that suggest ritualistic importance. These figures, often painted in red ochre, have been the subject of much debate among archaeologists. Some argue that they represent early forms of shamanistic practices, suggesting that the people of Monte Alegre were deeply connected to the natural and spiritual worlds around them. Others believe that the figures are representations of ancestors or deities, figures who may have been honored in the rituals held within the rock shelters. But what if these figures are something more? Could the people of Monte Alegre have been depicting something we don't yet fully understand? Something outside the realms of our current historical knowledge? The possibility that these paintings could represent beings or forces beyond human comprehension is tantalizing. Are these depictions of gods, spirits, or perhaps even extraterrestrial entities? Some fringe theories have suggested that the rock art at Monte Alegre is not just symbolic, but could be a form of communication with otherworldly beings. While these ideas remain speculative, they raise intriguing questions about the nature of the art and the beliefs of the people who created it. What is even more perplexing is the site's location itself. The Monte Alegre rock shelters are situated in an isolated region of the Amazon, far from other well-known ancient civilizations. While the Andean cultures and their advanced civilizations were developing along the western coast of South America, the people of Monte Alegre were living in a completely different environment, one that seems far removed from the powerful civilizations of the highlands. How did these people develop their unique culture, art, and technologies in such isolation? What contact, if any, did they have with other ancient peoples? The isolation of the site suggests a degree of self-reliance, but it also raises the question of whether there were cultural exchanges that we have yet to uncover. The lack of written records from this period only deepens the mystery. Unlike ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia, where written language allowed for the preservation of knowledge, the people of Monte Alegre left no inscriptions, no hieroglyphs, no codices to explain the meanings behind their paintings and artifacts. The only evidence of their existence comes from the archaeological record, the bones, the tools, and the artwork. But without written language, it is difficult to ascertain their full story. How did they perceive the world around them? What were their social structures like? What role did religion and ritual play in their lives? One of the most compelling aspects of the Monte Alegre rock shelters is their age. While some of the artwork dates back to over 12,000 years ago, there is evidence suggesting that the shelters were occupied even earlier, during the Pleistocene epoch. Some researchers believe that the people of Monte Alegre were among the first human groups to settle in the Amazon, and that they lived alongside the great megafauna that roamed the region. As the environment changed and the megafauna became extinct, these early inhabitants would have had to adapt to new ways of living. Could the art be a reflection of these changing times, depictions of creatures now gone, or symbols that were meant to ensure the survival of the people during times of hardship? Another mystery lies in the very technique of the rock paintings themselves. The use of red ochre, a pigment that was likely sourced from the surrounding landscape, suggests that the people of Monte Alegre had a deep understanding of the natural resources available to them. Yet, the precision and detail of the artwork indicate that these people were not just artists, but also skilled craftsmen and communicators. How did they develop such advanced techniques of painting and carving, and what was the purpose behind the specific choice of images? Were the paintings simply decorative, or did they serve a more profound, symbolic function? Could they have been created to mark sacred places, to communicate with the gods, or to ensure the fertility of the land? Despite all the intriguing discoveries, the Monte Alegre rock shelters remain an enigma, one that has yet to yield all of its secrets. The mysteries surrounding the artwork, the tools, the burial practices, and the very identity of the people who once lived there are far from solved. Was this a culture that was truly isolated, or were they part of a larger network of ancient peoples whose interactions and connections we have yet to fully understand? What did their art and rituals truly represent? And what other mysteries might be hidden beneath the layers of rock, waiting to be uncovered by future generations of explorers? As we stand before the ancient walls of Monte Alegre, we are left with more questions than answers. The whispers of the past still echo through the jungle, and the paintings that adorn the rock shelters remain a testament to a people whose story has yet to be fully told. What will the future reveal about this mysterious and forgotten civilization? And what untold stories lie hidden in the shadows of the Amazon rainforest, waiting to be brought to light? In the rugged hills of Sardinia, far from the bustling modern world, lies a collection of ancient tombs, enigmatic and largely overlooked by mainstream history. These are the so-called giants' graves, scattered across the island's wild landscapes, their stones standing in silent defiance of time and the elements. While some of the more famous sites, such as the Tomb of the Giants at Codu Vecchio, have drawn significant attention from archaeologists and visitors alike, there are countless lesser-known or minor graves that lie tucked away in remote corners of Sardinia. These smaller sites, though often less imposing than their more renowned counterparts, still hold a power that stirs the imagination. They raise questions about the island's ancient past and the mysterious people who once lived there. The giants' graves are not the burial sites of actual giants, as their name might suggest. Rather, they are monumental collective tombs built by the ancient Sardinians around 3000 BC during the late Neolithic and early Bronze Age. These graves are primarily found in the central and northern parts of the island, often in remote, elevated areas, which offers a hint of their significance. The tombs are constructed using large stone slabs, and their long, trapezoidal shapes suggest a deliberate architectural style. These graves are considered part of the island's broader megalithic tradition, linked to a culture whose knowledge of engineering and stonework was far ahead of its time. While the giants' graves found at prominent sites are often characterized by their large stone corridors and elaborate monuments, the lesser-known minor sites differ in several ways. They are smaller, more humble in appearance, yet no less mysterious. At first glance, these lesser graves seem like simple stone arrangements, several large slabs set upright, with others placed horizontally to form a tomb. However, the precise layout of these stones, their alignment, and the locations in which they were built suggest a far more intricate purpose than initially meets the eye. Each site seems to have been placed with great care, often facing specific natural landmarks, such as distant mountains or the sea, which implies that the builders had an understanding of astronomy and landscape symbolism. As one ventures into the hills to explore these sites, the first thing that strikes you is the isolation. The terrain is harsh, steep, rocky hillsides that lead to high plateaus. Yet these sites were not built randomly. In fact, the careful placement of these tombs indicates that their creators likely had a deep understanding of their surroundings. They chose locations that were not only difficult to reach, but also offered a view of the surrounding landscapes. Could this have been a deliberate choice to place the dead in a way that honored both the natural world and the spiritual beliefs of the people who constructed these tombs? Walking around the smaller giants' graves, one can't help but feel a profound sense of the past. The stone slabs, weathered by centuries of rain, wind, and sun, seem to carry the weight of history. unanswered questions about the island's ancient inhabitants. Though much about these people remains unknown, their megalithic structures suggest that they were no strangers to complex construction techniques. These tombs were not simply burial sites. They were statements of permanence and power, structures that would outlast the fleeting generations of human life. But what did these graves signify to those who built them? Were they purely functional, designed for the burial of the dead? Or did they have a spiritual or ceremonial role, an enduring monument to the relationship between the living and the dead? The origins of the Sardinian giants' graves remain an enigma. Who were the people who built them? The prevailing theory is that these tombs were constructed by a pre-Indo-European culture, one that lived on the island long before the arrival of the Phoenicians, the Carthaginians, or the Romans. These early Sardinians left no written records, and few physical artifacts have been uncovered to provide definitive answers. The tombs themselves offer the clearest clue to their creators' culture, yet their purpose, design, and meaning remain speculative. The grave's size, while smaller in some cases, still raises intriguing questions about the social hierarchy of these ancient people. Were these tombs reserved for elites, perhaps the ruling class or high priests of the community? Or were they communal burial sites, where members of a particular tribe or clan were interred together? The more elaborate graves, with their distinct architectural features, suggest that they were intended for someone of importance. This leads to further speculation about the role of the deceased in society. Were they seen as revered ancestors, whose spirits continued to watch over the living? Or were these graves simply practical solutions for dealing with death, with no greater spiritual significance? What is perhaps most fascinating about the minor Sardinian giants' graves is the lack of consensus among scholars. While many agree that these sites belong to the same cultural tradition as the larger, better-known giants' tombs, some archaeologists have raised alternative theories about their purpose. One idea posits that these graves might have been used for ritualistic purposes, with the tombs not merely serving as places of burial, but as focal points for religious or spiritual ceremonies. The careful arrangement of stones, with their symbolic alignment to celestial bodies and the landscape, might suggest that the builders had a keen interest in cosmology, using these sites as astronomical observatories or places for worship. Could the positioning of these graves correspond to the movements of the sun, moon, or stars? Was there a connection between the tombs and the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, central themes in many ancient cultures? In some areas, minor graves are found in clusters, suggesting that they may have formed part of a larger, complex burial landscape. Were these groups of tombs linked by a shared community, or were they spread across different regions with varying beliefs and practices? The discovery of similar stone structures in other parts of Europe, such as the British Isles and the Mediterranean, only deepens the mystery. What, if any, cultural or technological exchanges took place between these distant megalithic builders? As the questions continue to mount, one cannot ignore the growing fascination with the giants' graves, especially those in the more remote corners of Sardinia. The island itself, steeped in layers of history, offers little concrete evidence about the builders of these mysterious tombs, forcing us to rely on speculation, symbolism, and comparison with other ancient megalithic cultures. What did the builders of these tombs truly believe? Were they deeply spiritual people, driven to leave behind monuments that would honor their ancestors for millennia to come? Or were they simply practical people who created these tombs to serve as places of burial and commemoration with no grander purpose in mind? As time continues to erode both the stones and our understanding, one thing is certain: the Sardinian giants' graves, whether large or small, continue to hold secrets. They remain silent witnesses to a culture that once flourished on this isolated Mediterranean island. What knowledge do these mysterious tombs still hold? And as further excavation and study take place, what other revelations might come to light? Until then, the answers remain buried beneath layers of stone, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Nestled in the serene countryside of Wiltshire, England, lies one of the most enigmatic and awe-inspiring megalithic sites in Europe, Avebury. While many may have heard of Stonehenge, just a few miles to the southeast, Avebury remains shrouded in mystery, its colossal stones standing as silent sentinels over an ancient landscape that still holds its secrets. Unlike the more famous Circle of Stonehenge, Avebury is vast in scale, sprawling across an area of approximately 28 acres, far surpassing its more renowned neighbor in both size and complexity. Yet despite its prominence as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Avebury's true purpose remains an unsolved riddle, its meaning lost to the sands of time. As you approach Avebury, the first thing that strikes you is the sheer magnitude of the site. Unlike Stonehenge, where the stones are arranged in a more compact formation, Avebury sprawls out in wide arcs, with the stones positioned in massive circles that surround the small village. The stone circle itself consists of over 100 large stones, each varying in size, some towering over 4 meters tall, while others are shorter, their original shapes worn smooth by centuries of weathering. These stones are arranged in 3 concentric circles and are part of a larger sacred landscape that also includes a large earthwork, a massive henge or circular ditch that surrounds the entire monument. The size of the site, coupled with the deliberate positioning of the stones, suggests that this was no ordinary construction project. It would have taken thousands of hours, immense resources, and considerable knowledge of engineering and astronomy to create such an expansive and complex structure. But what was the purpose behind it all? What motivated the builders, whose identity remains elusive, to create such a monumental site? And how did they possess the knowledge and skill to move and erect these massive stones, some weighing several tons? Theories about Avebury's purpose vary widely, but there is one undeniable fact. The site was built with great care and intent. Archaeologists believe that it was constructed during the Neolithic period, around 2500 BC, a time when early farming communities in Britain were beginning to make the transition from a nomadic existence to more settled lifestyles. The site, with its intricate design and alignment to the celestial bodies, suggests that the people who built it had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. But what exactly were they trying to align with? Was it the sun, the moon, or perhaps the stars themselves? Was Avebury a place of worship, a sanctuary for rituals, or did it serve a more practical function as a center for community gathering and social organization? One of the most compelling features of Avebury is the way it seems to interact with the landscape. The stones are not simply placed haphazardly, they are carefully positioned, aligning with key points in the surrounding natural environment. The Great Henge, with its deep, wide ditch and bank, seems to focus attention on a specific area of the sky. The alignment of the stones and the earthworks suggests that the builders were not just creating a physical structure, but a symbolic one as well, one that bridged the divide between the earth and the cosmos. The stone circle may have functioned as a kind of celestial observatory, a place where people could track the movements of the sun and moon, marking the changing seasons, important agricultural cycles, or perhaps the passage of time itself. Yet, the mysteries surrounding Avebury do not end with its astronomical alignments. The sheer scale of the site raises further questions about the society that created it. Who were the people responsible for this monumental feat of engineering? And why did they choose to construct such an enormous site, one that, by all accounts, would have required an extensive labor force, as well as knowledge of construction techniques far beyond what was expected of the time? Theories abound, but little is certain. Some scholars suggest that the builders were part of a religious or spiritual community, while others believe that the site may have had more practical, social, or political purposes. Whatever the true motivation, the scale of the site points to a highly organized and sophisticated society, one with the ability to plan, organize, and execute large-scale construction projects. Intriguingly, Avebury's significance seems to have endured long after its construction. The site was not abandoned. In fact, it continued to play an important role for centuries, with evidence of use extending well into the Bronze Age and beyond. This continuity of use raises another fascinating question. Was Avebury more than just a religious site? Could it have also served as a political or cultural center, a place where power was consolidated and social identities were forged? The role of religion, politics, and culture in the creation and ongoing use of Avebury remains a tantalizing mystery. But it is not just the alignment of the stones or the purpose of the site that intrigues researchers. It is also the mystery of the people who built it. The early inhabitants of Britain who constructed Avebury left no written records, no inscriptions, and no direct clues about their culture. The Neolithic people who lived during this time were far removed from the later Celts, Romans, or Anglo-Saxons, and their ways of life remain largely obscure. Yet, there are hints that the builders of Avebury were part of a much broader, interconnected world. Similar stone circles and megalithic sites have been discovered across Europe, particularly in regions like Brittany in France and the Iberian Peninsula. This suggests that the builders of Avebury were not isolated, but were part of a larger cultural and technological network, one that shared knowledge of stone construction techniques, astronomy, and ritual practices. What, then, was the role of Avebury in this larger network? Was it a place of pilgrimage, where people from across the ancient world came to honor their gods and ancestors? Or was it a more localized center of power, where regional elites gathered to perform sacred rituals and mark the passing of time? Some theorists even suggest that Avebury may have served as a kind of power center, a place where people came together to negotiate, form alliances, and cement political relationships. As we ponder these questions, we are reminded of how little we truly know about the ancient people who built Avebury. Despite centuries of excavation and study, much of the mystery remains unsolved. And while mainstream explanations point to its role as a ceremonial or ritualistic site, it is possible that Avebury's true purpose was far more complex and layered. Could it have been a tool of cosmic understanding, a political instrument, or even a social or communal hub? And how did the builders, whose identity and culture remain largely unknown, understand their place in the world and their connection to the cosmos? The enigma of Avebury is not simply one of stones and alignments. It is a window into a lost world, one where the boundaries between the physical and spiritual worlds were blurred. The mystery remains, a silent testimony to an ancient society whose legacy still echoes through the stones, waiting to be understood. Hidden away in the rolling hills of the southern coast of Cyprus lies one of the most puzzling archaeological sites of the Neolithic period, Khirokitia. This ancient village, whose structures have stood the test of time for over 6,000 years, is an extraordinary testament to the early development of human settlement. Yet it remains surrounded by an aura of mystery. What was the purpose of this seemingly advanced settlement, and what can its ruins tell us about the people who once lived there? As the sun casts long shadows over the stone dwellings and circular huts, the unanswered questions about Khirokitia linger, leaving behind more mysteries than solutions. The site itself is an impressive collection of circular stone buildings, nestled on the side of a hill overlooking a fertile valley. These structures, some of which still have their walls intact, are a striking feature of Neolithic architecture. They are remarkably well constructed for their time, with thick stone walls designed to offer protection from the elements, a feature suggesting a level of sophistication that is not commonly seen in early agricultural communities. The buildings are thought to have been dwellings, their round shapes possibly symbolizing unity or even reflecting early notions of the cosmos. Their design is not only practical but also symbolic, evoking a sense of harmony with the surrounding environment. Each of the buildings is arranged along a series of narrow, winding streets, which form a kind of urban grid, a rarity for Neolithic villages, which typically lacked such organized layouts. The careful planning and arrangement of the site speak to a highly organized society, one that likely had some form of leadership or social structure. The fact that the village was built on a hillside raises another intriguing question. Was this location chosen for its strategic advantage, perhaps for defensive purposes, or was it selected for symbolic or ritualistic reasons? The most striking feature of the Khirokitia structures is their circular design. While round houses were common in many ancient cultures, the degree of uniformity and the sheer scale of Khirokitia's circular buildings suggest that there may have been something more to this architectural choice. Was it merely a practical way to conserve space or a reflection of deeper cultural or spiritual beliefs? Some researchers have speculated that the round shapes of the houses could have symbolized the cyclical nature of life or the eternal cycle of the seasons, which would have been particularly significant for a society heavily reliant on agriculture. Others suggest that the round dwellings could have served a more practical purpose. The circular design may have made them more resistant to the strong winds and weather conditions that frequently swept across the island. But the mystery of Khirokitia extends beyond the site's architecture. While archaeologists have uncovered a wealth of tools, pottery, and other everyday items from the settlement, they have yet to uncover any clear evidence of a written language, and the purpose of the settlement remains elusive. What was Khirokitia's role in the broader context of Neolithic Cyprus and the ancient world? The site dates back to approximately 2300 BC, during the Chalcolithic period, a time of major transition in the Mediterranean. Societies were moving from purely hunter-gatherer lifestyles to more complex agricultural communities. The residents of Khirokitia were likely among the first to domesticate animals and cultivate crops on the island, marking the beginning of a new era in Cypriot history. Yet, despite their advanced agricultural practices, there are no signs of large-scale trade, and little evidence has been found to suggest that the inhabitants of Khirokitia were heavily involved in the broader networks of the ancient world. Could it be that Khirokitia existed as a kind of isolated microcosm, where early farming practices, social organization, and cultural traditions developed without the external influences of other civilizations? Though Khirokitia was built by a highly organized society, there is no evidence of a centralized governing authority. There are no palaces, no grand temples, and no monumental tombs to suggest that a hierarchical, elite-driven society once ruled the village. Instead, the settlement appears to have been composed of a relatively egalitarian group of people, with each household living in similar-sized dwellings. Could this indicate that Khirokitia's residents were more community-oriented, perhaps bound by shared religious beliefs, collective rituals, or a common cultural identity? While these questions may never be fully answered, there are several theories that offer potential explanations. One of the most intriguing ideas is that Khirokitia might have been a religious or ceremonial center, a place where early rituals and spiritual practices were conducted. The circular nature of the dwellings and the careful alignment of the village could point to a deep connection between the settlement and celestial or earth-based symbolism. Perhaps the layout of the site reflected the alignment of the stars, the sun, or the moon, suggesting that the people of Khirokitia were not only advanced in their agricultural practices, but also possessed a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. The lack of significant burial evidence at Khirokitia adds another layer of mystery to the site. In many ancient cultures, the burial of the dead was an important ritual that reflected the social hierarchy and religious beliefs of a community. Yet, at Khirokitia, burial sites are scarce, and those that have been found are relatively simple compared to other Neolithic burial sites. This absence of elaborate tombs and funerary practices might suggest that the community did not place a strong emphasis on personal or familial status. Alternatively, it could imply that the people of Khirokitia followed different burial practices. Perhaps they disposed of their dead in ways that have not yet been uncovered by modern archaeology. Another puzzling aspect of Khirokitia is the absence of significant trade artifacts. While the island of Cyprus was known for its copper resources, and trade in raw materials and finished goods was a vital part of ancient economies, Khirokitia does not appear to have been a major trading hub. Unlike other Neolithic sites, which often contain evidence of long-distance trade, Khirokitia's residents seem to have been more self-sufficient, relying primarily on local resources. This raises the question: was Khirokitia a community that was isolated from the larger networks of trade and cultural exchange that existed in the ancient Mediterranean? Or were the people of Khirokitia simply uninterested in external trade, perhaps focused more on internal growth and local practices? The most compelling mystery of Khirokitia, however, is not just the site itself, but the question of who the people were who built it. What were their cultural practices, their religious beliefs, their social structures? Why did they choose this specific site, perched high above the surrounding valley, to build their village? And most importantly, why did they eventually abandon the settlement, leaving behind a remarkable but largely uninhabited site that would become a symbol of human ingenuity and mystery for future generations? The ruins of Khirokitia stand as an open-ended question, inviting speculation but offering no clear answers. The stones and structures remain, mute witnesses to a forgotten civilization that left no written record of its existence. And as we stand among the ruins, gazing out over the landscape that has seen so many seasons pass, we are left to wonder: what, if anything, have we yet to uncover about Khirokitia? And what hidden secrets still lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be revealed? As the winds howl across the rugged landscape of Orkney, an archipelago off the northern coast of Scotland, one of the most remarkable and mysterious prehistoric sites in Europe stands quietly in the shadow of time. The Neolithic settlement of Skara Brae, which was uncovered by a violent storm in 1850, holds within it not only the story of ancient human ingenuity, but also a web of unanswered questions that continue to intrigue archaeologists, historians, and those drawn to the mysteries of the past. Skara Brae's core, the heart of this ancient village, is a collection of stone-built homes that stand as a testament to the skill and resourcefulness of its inhabitants. Nestled against the windswept hills and overlooking the North Sea, the settlement dates back to around 3100 BC, well before the construction of the Great Pyramids of Egypt or the rise of Mesopotamian cities. Yet, despite its age, Skara Brae remains one of the most complete and well-preserved Neolithic villages in the world, offering an unparalleled glimpse into life in prehistoric Britain. Walking through the site today, the stone walls of the houses rise before you, their smooth, weathered surfaces shaped by centuries of wind and rain. The dwellings are remarkably small by modern standards, with low ceilings and walls constructed from tightly fitted slabs of local sandstone. But it is their sheer durability and the degree of sophistication with which they were built that makes Skara Brae such a unique and enigmatic site. The layout of the village is carefully planned, with each house connected by a series of narrow, winding passageways that snake through the settlement like veins running through an ancient organism. It's easy to imagine the people who lived here, perhaps a tight-knit community, living in harmony with their environment, bound by shared customs, traditions, and perhaps even beliefs that remain forever beyond our reach. Inside the homes, the floor is still paved with smooth stone slabs, and in some of the houses, the remains of stone furniture, including beds, dressers, and seats, can still be seen. These structures were clearly designed for comfort and functionality, and they suggest a level of architectural skill that seems out of place for a society that was thought to be primitive by modern standards. The furniture was built directly into the walls, with some beds even incorporating stone shelving and storage spaces, while other rooms had open hearths where firewood was burned to cook food or provide warmth during the long, cold winters. The hearths themselves are positioned in a central part of the room, carefully constructed to optimize both warmth and airflow. But while Skara Brae is an extraordinary example of Neolithic architecture and domestic life, there is much about this ancient village that remains shrouded in mystery. How did the inhabitants, who had no metal tools and little contact with other cultures, manage to build such a complex settlement in a remote and harsh environment? And perhaps more perplexing still, why was Skara Brae abandoned so suddenly, only a few centuries after it was constructed? One of the most intriguing aspects of Skara Brae is its isolation. Orkney, the archipelago where Skara Brae is located, lies far to the north, far from the main centers of power and trade in ancient Europe. While it is clear that the people of Skara Brae were part of a broader Neolithic culture that spanned much of Europe, there is no evidence of large-scale trade or contact with the civilizations of the Mediterranean or the Near East. Instead, the people of Skara Brae appear to have been largely self-sufficient, relying on the land and sea around them for food and raw materials. This raises the question, how did they develop the advanced building techniques and social structures that allowed them to thrive in such a remote and harsh environment? Could it be that they possessed knowledge or skills that were lost to history, passed down through oral tradition, or perhaps learned from a now vanished culture? Interestingly, while the buildings at Skara Brae are remarkably well preserved, the site offers no evidence of the large-scale monuments or ceremonial structures that one might expect from such a complex society. There are no grand temples, no intricate carvings or paintings, and no monumental statues or tombs. Instead, the focus is squarely on the practical and functional aspects of life: food storage, shelter, and the day-to-day needs of the community. Some scholars have suggested that the absence of ceremonial structures at Skara Brae reflects a society that was more focused on practical survival than religious or symbolic expression. But could it also be that the people of Skara Brae practiced their rituals in ways that we have yet to understand, perhaps using objects or materials that have since decayed or disappeared? One of the most famous artifacts recovered from Skara Brae is the small stone gaming pieces that have been found in several of the houses. These pieces, which appear to have been used in some sort of game or social activity, offer a tantalizing glimpse into the social life of the inhabitants. The discovery of such objects suggests that the people of Skara Brae had time for leisure and social interaction, despite the challenges of living in such a remote and harsh environment. Yet, the purpose of these games, and their possible connection to the broader culture of the Neolithic world, remains unclear. Were they a form of entertainment, a way of bonding within the community, or did they serve a deeper, more ritualistic function? The mystery of Skara Brae deepens when we consider the reasons for the village's sudden abandonment. Archaeological evidence shows that the settlement was occupied for several centuries before it was abandoned around 2600 BC. The reasons for this abandonment remain speculative, and several theories have been proposed. Some believe that climate change played a role, with a shift in weather patterns leading to a decline in agricultural productivity or making the area less habitable. Others suggest that the inhabitants of Skara Brae may have been forced to leave due to external factors, such as conflict or resource depletion. Another theory posits that the inhabitants may have simply moved to another location, perhaps in search of better opportunities for trade or farming. However, no definitive answers have been found, and the sudden departure of the people of Skara Brae continues to be one of the most compelling and frustrating aspects of the site. What caused this abrupt end to a thriving community? Was it a natural disaster, a social upheaval, or a more mundane shift in the way people lived? The evidence at the site remains tantalizingly incomplete, and as of now, there is no clear explanation. Even the most basic aspects of Skara Brae's inhabitants remain elusive. Who were the people who lived here, and where did they come from? Were they part of the wider Neolithic culture of Europe, or did they represent a unique, isolated community with their own distinct way of life? While the site offers an extraordinary amount of information about the daily lives of its inhabitants, it does not provide any clear clues about their origins or their fate. As the wind continues to whip across the island, stirring the grasses that have long since overgrown the village, the questions surrounding Skara Brae persist. What was it that made this community choose to settle in such an isolated location, and what ultimately caused them to abandon their homes? Could there be more to discover beneath the soil? More secrets waiting to be uncovered by future archaeologists? The site of Skara Brae remains one of the most enigmatic and thought-provoking locations in the prehistoric world. Its stone structures offer a glimpse into the past, but they also invite us to ponder the mysteries that still elude us. The story of the people who built and lived in Skara Brae is far from complete, and as we look out over the windswept landscape, we are left to wonder what, if anything, will ever reveal the full truth of this ancient village's existence. Nestled high in the Andes Mountains, where the thin air and jagged peaks seem to stretch forever into the sky, lies a structure that has captivated archaeologists, historians, and mystics alike. The Temple of the Sun, known locally as Intihuatana, the hitching post of the sun, stands as a testament to the advanced understanding of astronomy and spirituality possessed by the ancient civilizations of South America. But as impressive as its stonework is, the true nature of the temple remains an enigma, shrouded in both legend and unanswered questions. The temple's most striking feature is its commanding presence. Situated in what is now known as Machu Picchu, a sprawling citadel built by the Inca civilization, the Temple of the Sun rises dramatically against the backdrop of towering cliffs and lush vegetation. The site itself is a marvel, with meticulously cut stone structures blending seamlessly with the natural landscape. When viewed from the right angle, it almost seems as though the temple was designed specifically to align with the landscape itself, emphasizing the deeply spiritual connection between the Inca and their environment. The Temple of the Sun's walls are adorned with intricate stonework, carefully crafted from massive blocks of granite that were transported from quarries miles away. These stones fit together with such precision that even the smallest of gaps between them are almost imperceptible. There is no mortar, no modern tools used, only the meticulous craftsmanship of ancient builders. The structure's interior is just as awe-inspiring. Inside, the walls are hollowed out to form niches, and a central window allows sunlight to stream in during the solstices, illuminating a sacred stone platform. It is clear that the Temple of the Sun was not simply a place of worship, but a space designed for cosmic alignment, with astronomical observations deeply integrated into its design. During the summer solstice, the rising sun's rays would shine directly through the central window, casting light on the sacred stone within. This stone, thought to have been used for rituals and offerings, may have been symbolic of the sun god Inti, the deity most venerated by the Inca people. The temple itself served as a focal point for the community's rituals and ceremonies, underscoring their reverence for the sun and the vital role it played in their agricultural and spiritual life. Yet, despite its undeniable importance, the full significance of the Temple of the Sun remains unclear. While scholars agree that it was a sacred site linked to Inti, some questions linger, questions that hint at a deeper mystery. Why was the temple built so meticulously? How did the Inca, who lacked the advanced tools and technologies we take for granted today, manage to achieve such precision in its construction? Some researchers have suggested that the site may have had even greater astronomical and spiritual significance than previously thought. But what were the true rituals performed there? What knowledge or wisdom might have been imparted to those who stood in the temple's shadow, gazing at the cosmos? The Inca were known for their sophisticated understanding of the stars, the sun, and the cosmos at large. They built many other structures designed for astronomical observation, but none quite like the Temple of the Sun. Some have proposed that the temple was more than just a ceremonial site. It may have been a kind of astronomical observatory, designed not just to honor the sun, but to measure time with precision, to track the movements of the heavens in ways that would be nearly impossible with the technology of the day. Could the Inca have had a deeper understanding of the universe than we give them credit for? Did they possess knowledge that has been lost to the sands of time? One theory suggests that the Inca might have been aware of the solstices, equinoxes, and other celestial events in ways that went far beyond mere observation. Some researchers have proposed that the site may have served as a kind of timekeeper, a tool for understanding the celestial cycles in relation to earthly events, such as crop planting or ceremonial dates. However, the exact method by which the Inca achieved this is unknown. Did they possess secret knowledge passed down through generations? Or was their understanding of the cosmos simply the result of careful, empirical observation passed down through countless generations of Andean cultures? The mystery deepens when we consider the history of the site itself. Machu Picchu, and by extension the Temple of the Sun, remained hidden from the outside world for centuries, forgotten by all except the local population. The arrival of Spanish conquistadors in the 16th century led to the fall of the Inca Empire, and much of its history and knowledge was lost or deliberately erased. Even the name of the temple itself, Intihuatana, was not recorded by the Inca in written form, leaving only fragments of the story to be pieced together by modern archaeologists. What other knowledge might have been lost with the fall of the Inca civilization? Were there other temples like this, perhaps hidden deep within the mountains, waiting to be uncovered? Could there have been rituals, practices, or astronomical secrets that the Inca deliberately kept hidden from outsiders, only shared within the sacred walls of their temples? Even the name Intihuatana invites further speculation. In Quechua, Inti refers to the sun god, but Huatana translates to hitching post, which gives the temple an air of mystery. What could the Inca have meant by this? Was the temple, as some suggest, a place where the sun itself was tethered or bound to the earth during certain celestial events? Or could it refer to a deeper spiritual connection between the physical world and the celestial realms? Were the priests and shamans who performed rituals there believed to be mediators between the realms, conducting ceremonies to harness the energy of the sun and its connection to the earth? As we look back at the Temple of the Sun, it is impossible not to wonder how much of its purpose remains beyond our grasp. While its physical construction is a marvel of ancient engineering, the true meaning of the temple may never be fully understood. It stands as both a monument to the Incas' incredible skills and knowledge, and a reminder of how much of their world we have yet to discover. Were the Inca truly aware of the cosmic forces at play above them, or did they simply imbue their world with meanings and interpretations that are beyond our understanding today? What is perhaps most fascinating about the Temple of the Sun is the question of what remains hidden. Despite the centuries of exploration and the continued study of the Inca, how many secrets still lie buried in the mountains of Machu Picchu? Could there be more to uncover, perhaps even hidden chambers, artifacts, or inscriptions that would shed light on the Incas' deeper knowledge of the cosmos? The Temple of the Sun, with its eerie stillness and celestial alignment, serves as a reminder that there is still much to be uncovered in the ruins of ancient civilizations. As we continue to explore the remnants of the Inca Empire and other ancient cultures, we must ask ourselves, how much have we truly learned? And how much remains just beyond the reach of our understanding, waiting to be discovered by those willing to look with open minds and curious hearts? Deep in the heart of Cambodia, surrounded by dense jungle and the sounds of wildlife, stands an ancient complex of temples, Sambor Prei Kuk. Unlike the grandeur of Angkor Wat or the iconic spires of Angkor Thom, Sambor Prei Kuk is often overlooked, hidden away from the spotlight despite being one of the oldest and most mysterious archaeological sites in Southeast Asia. Its remoteness adds an air of intrigue to the site, where the crumbling brick temples stand silently, holding within them secrets of an ancient civilization that flourished long before the mighty Khmer Empire. The temples of Sambor Prei were built during the 7th century, at a time when the Chenla kingdom held sway over the region. The site's significance lies not only in its impressive architectural remains, but also in the quiet story it tells of a civilization that left few records, and whose precise role in the region's history remains unclear. As you walk through the ancient ruins, the structures seem to breathe with life, whispering tales of gods, kings, and forgotten rituals. The temple complex itself is vast, sprawling across the jungle floor with an almost eerie stillness. The most prominent temples are constructed from finely crafted brick, a material that was both durable and flexible in the humid tropical climate. The temples at Sambor Prei feature a unique combination of both Hindu and Buddhist iconography, suggesting that this site may have been a focal point of religious and cultural transition in the region. Carved stones with depictions of gods and sacred symbols adorn the walls, and the intricate brickwork forms geometric patterns that could hold symbolic meaning still eluding modern researchers. One of the most striking features of Sambor Prei is its distinctive construction style. Unlike the massive stone temples of Angkor, which were built with sandstone and laterite, the Sambor Prei temples were constructed primarily from bricks, which were then coated in stucco to create a smooth, polished finish. The bricks themselves, though weathered with age, reveal an impressive level of craftsmanship. Some of the structures are adorned with carvings of mythological creatures, intricate floral patterns, and geometric motifs that suggest a highly skilled workforce. However, despite the high level of artistry and design, the purpose of many of these carvings remains elusive. As archaeologists delve deeper into the site, it becomes clear that the temples were not just places of worship. The layout of the site, with its large courtyards and central shrines, points to a complex understanding of sacred geometry and astronomical alignment. In fact, some researchers speculate that the temples may have been constructed with the stars in mind, aligning with celestial events such as solstices or equinoxes. This, in turn, raises the question of how advanced the knowledge of astronomy was among the people of the Chenla kingdom. The mystery surrounding Sambor Prei deepens when we consider its abandonment. While the Khmer Empire later rose to dominance in the region, the temples of Sambor Prei were seemingly left behind, falling into obscurity. Was this due to political or religious shifts, or was it something more mysterious? Some historians suggest that the decline of the Chenla kingdom and the eventual rise of the Khmer Empire caused the temples to lose their significance. However, no definitive explanation has been found, and the site's gradual decay into ruin has left us with more questions than answers. One of the more speculative theories posits that the temples may have been abandoned due to a cataclysmic event, perhaps linked to environmental factors or a natural disaster that may have struck the region. The surrounding jungle, which has long encroached upon the ruins, further feeds this notion of a lost civilization overtaken by nature. Could a flood or some other disaster have caused the civilization to collapse? Or was it simply the natural progression of power shifting from one kingdom to another? Adding to the mystery is the unusual nature of the carvings found throughout the site. The stone reliefs and brickwork are unlike anything seen in other contemporary Southeast Asian cultures. Some of the figures depicted appear to be neither purely Hindu nor Buddhist in origin, but suggest a blending of religious beliefs, possibly even earlier indigenous practices that predate both major religions. Was Sambor Prei a site of unique cultural fusion, where ancient spiritual traditions mixed with the incoming influence of Hinduism and Buddhism? Or does it suggest that the people of the region were experimenting with new forms of religious expression, combining various elements from different faiths to create something entirely new? Among the most puzzling aspects of Sambor Prei is the lack of written records. Unlike the civilizations of Egypt, Mesopotamia, or even the later Khmer Empire, the Chenla kingdom left behind no detailed inscriptions or texts explaining the purpose of the temples or the rituals performed within their walls. The absence of such records has led to much speculation, as scholars attempt to piece together the purpose of the site through its architectural and artistic elements. Did the people of Sambor Prei have a written language, or did they rely on oral traditions? And if they did have a written form, where are the records now? Some researchers have even wondered if the site could hold other hidden elements, possibly even untouched chambers or hidden artifacts buried deep within the surrounding jungle. The dense vegetation that surrounds the site offers both a sense of awe and an air of danger, as if the land itself is hiding secrets that may yet be uncovered. Could there be more to Sambor Prei than what is visible to the modern eye? Perhaps, buried beneath layers of time and nature, there are still clues that could shed light on the civilization that built these temples. And then there is the question of the people who once lived here. Who were they, and what were their beliefs and customs? The lack of human remains at the site only adds to the sense of mystery, as if the people of Sambor Prei vanished without a trace. Were they swept away by war or disease, or did they simply fade into the surrounding landscape, leaving behind only these enigmatic ruins? The mystery of Sambor Prei is far from solved, and in many ways, the site remains as much a puzzle as it did when it was first discovered. The remnants of this ancient temple complex continue to evoke a sense of wonder, inviting us to question what we truly know about the past. As archaeologists continue to study the site and new technologies enable deeper exploration, the secrets of Sambor Prei may one day be revealed. But until then, the temples remain silent, their mysteries lingering in the air like a whisper from the distant past. As we stand among the ruins of Sambor Prei one cannot help but wonder, what knowledge was once contained within these walls? What stories did the temple stones once hold? And, more intriguingly, what secrets might still be buried in the shadows, waiting for someone to uncover them? The answers remain elusive, but perhaps the journey to find them is as important as the discovery itself.